everyone. Thank you for welcome to the Lander County Commission meeting, Town Board of Battle Mountain and Austin Board
Unmuted.
of County Highway Commissions for September 9th, 2021.
Robert, come shut this off.
Please.
I was trying to get his attention. Sounds like we're on a camping trip against the crickets.
Danger, Will Robinson, danger.
Are we good? All right, so you want to lead us in the pledge, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we'll have a moment of silence. All right, moving forward. Lander County Commission may break for lunch from 12 p.m. to 1:15 p.m. Any agenda item may be taken out of order, may be combined for consideration by the public body, and items may be pulled or removed from the agenda at any time. Commissioners' reports on meetings, conferences, and seminars attended. Patsy?
Thank you. First of all, just a quick reminder, our Chamber of Commerce is hosting the wine walk and supper at Stokes Castle, and that's for this Saturday coming up. I did attend last week the Nevada Recovery Team tour event that they did up and down Highway 80, and that was with our treasurer, Zach Canine, and I did attend that one, and I also responded as far as the information on the internet with ideas for their money and how it should be spent. That's it.
No meetings.
All right. I also attended the meeting with the treasurer when they had it here, looking for different ideas for community projects and things like that. It was there were some really good ideas put out there, so that was nice. And I also attended the hospital board meeting and just regular business. Beyond that, I think those are the only two meetings I've attended. JR?
Haven't attended any meetings.
All right.
Nothing recorded.
Staff reports, meetings on seminars, conferences that have been attended.
All right, I actually wrote my thoughts down today for you guys because oftentimes I get up here and I start stuttering through everything and get a bunch of uhs in there for you. But we do have our COVID Town Hall meeting tonight at 7 p.m. It's going to be at the Civic Center. We will be broadcasting it Zoom. It'll be the same link that people get on to watch this. So you can Zoom in tonight at 7 p.m. Hear what needs to be said. It's held by our health board, which is Dr. Troy Ross and Dr. Wilcourt will be the ones speaking and answering questions. It's more for just public input and answering concerns and questions that have going on there for our community. Then I also, the newspaper there was an article in a newspaper that was put out on what Lander County is doing and what we're doing hiring counsel and I didn't respond. I know that most of the commission didn't respond. I believe Patsy was the only one that did maybe respond out of the 5 commissioners. The reason I didn't respond is because I figured it's better to do here in an open meeting where comments can't be cherry picked and it's open to go through everybody. And with that said, I'm going to read exactly what we have going on so everybody understands what we hired counsel for and where we're going as a county.
Bert, before you start that, then, since you said that I responded, let me at least put on the record what I responded, because I don't want you to think I was talking out of school. I simply said that he said they had deferred it and he asked to call and chat. And I simply said that my understanding was we would be addressing it at another meeting and to contact our county manager for when it would be on the agenda. That was my response, okay? So I didn't get to end anything.
Correct, and if that came off as misrepresenting, I apologize. And if any of the commissioners, anything that I read here, if you guys disagree with it, please speak up for the public so they know exactly what we have going on. As many of you know, there has been some confusion and rumors fumigating throughout our community regarding the concerns raised by this board relative to what is happening during the 2020 election. As you're well aware, this board certified the election results in Lander County and are confident in Lander County and its clerk did everything appropriate to assure that each and every vote cast by the residents of Lander County was counted. However, the board has expressed its concerns regarding how other counties within the state of Nevada conducted their elections and whether the way in which our other counties conducted their elections may have diluted the votes of Lander County residents and or disenfranchised them entirely. For this reason, the board retained counsel to review allegations of voter fraud in other counties and to determine whether such is true, whether these allegations, fraudulent votes, disenfranchise Lander County residents. The board is committed to assuring elections are transparent and that the integrity is paramount amongst all counties in the state of Nevada. Simply put, if one county fails its obligation to assure voting integrity, it has a severe impact on all counties in the state of Nevada. This is particularly true of rural counties such as Lander County, which are important to the state but are often overlooked and underappreciated by many of Nevada's elected officials. The only way Lander County residents can voice their opinion is through the power of the ballot. If the power is diluted or otherwise disenfranchised, the voice of Lander County residents becomes nullified. As part of its ongoing obligation to assure the voter integrity is consistent across all counties, this board reviewed its statutory obligations, including those delineated under NRS 293B-115, which requires the Board of County Commissioners, when they have adopted mechanical voting systems, to retain custody of such devices between elections. Given that it is a statutory mandate that the board retains custody of Lander County mechanical voting systems when the devices are not in use, the board reached out to the county clerk and asked her to work with Nevada Secretary of State, Nevada Attorney General's office, and or individuals within the U.S. Department of Justice to identify the appropriate procedures preserving all data and information required under the law, while at the same time allowing the board to take possession of mechanical voting systems as required under NRS 293B-115. The board was clear that the county clerk was to assure that she had fulfilled her statutory obligations and preserve all data and or ballots cast by Lander County residents so that it could not be modified, tampered with, or altered in any fashion. It was determined that the best way for both the county clerk and the Board of County Commissioners to follow their respective statutory mandates would be for the county clerk to retain possession of all electronic voting machines and their respective data in her vault, while at the same time notifying the board prior to allowing any person to alter, modify, or tamper with any mechanical voting system. In this way, the data on the machines remains uncompromised and the board can fulfill its obligation relative to controlling the electronic voting machines by staying informed prior to anyone accessing the devices. It is and always has been the commitment of this board and Lander County votes are of this board that all Lander County votes are protected and preserved and that each and every ballot cast by Lander County voter is counted. I know that this board is committed to voter integrity and assuring that every vote in Lander County has a voice in what happens in Nevada. And with that, I stand with this board in that regard. So I know that's long and drawn out, but I just wanted it to be clear to what we are doing and what we are trying to do, that we are not trying to, nobody thinks that we're going to overturn a past election. Nobody has that, at least that I'm aware of up here. But we want to make sure that the integrity is kept in future elections, and anything that's going on with the machines right now, that they aren't tampered with, because it's the duty of this board to make sure of that. And with that, that's all I have to report.
Yeah.
So I won't make any comments.
Yeah, we'll wait till we get to that item. So, all right. Anything further on that? All right. For consent agenda All matters listed under, oops, I know, I'm going back, I saw it, I have a check. I saw my mistake, I'm going, sorry. For public comment, for non-agendized items only, persons are invited to submit comments in writing and/or attend and make comments on any non-agendized items at the board meeting, if any, and discussion of these comments at the discretion of the board. All public comments may be limited to 3 minutes per person. Again, all discretion, just discretion of the board. Reasonable restrictions may be placed on public comment based upon time, place, and manner, but public comment based upon viewpoint may not be restricted. So, do we have any public comment?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Rita. Civic Center's looking good, Rita.
Oh, yes,
I
those.
noticed that. That needs to be in the record.
Yes, those are beautiful. That stuff that you've done out front. Yes. So, then, all right. Any other public comment? All right.
Muted. Unmuted.
Amy Nelson. Is Brian Sparks on Zoom? No. Okay, so one thing I wanted to follow up on, and it doesn't have to be this meeting, but he did bring up a couple months ago, the 5G tower. And I was just curious because I saw it when I was driving through town. That 5G tower. And, you know, as you know, they emit extreme radiation at times. And I just didn't know if there was any kind of controls or, you know, it's right there next to where the kids are walking to school and different things. And I just wasn't sure. He had asked for some follow-up information, and I may have missed that meeting. But if not, that's something I'd be interested in hearing about later, is what kind of controls and what's happening. There's videos and articles all over the place about the dangers of 5G, benefits of 5G and the dangers of 5G. But that was just an aside. The main reason I'm here is, and I took notes too, like you, Bert, because I tend to ramble. The Constitution was originally designed for the states to hold power. That's the 10th Amendment of the Constitution. The federal government was designed to have limited powers. Interstate commerce, you know, make sure I go to Utah, I can still use the same money, protect our borders, and, you know, of course, foreign interference type stuff. States also have constitutions, as we know, and then in those constitutions, they did something similar with the local counties. They tried to establish local control so that the counties, because we're so different, just like was mentioned earlier, Clark County has very different needs than Lander County, Humboldt County. And so, for the most part, counties have local jurisdiction, as most of us know. And over time, it's clear to all of us, and that's what you guys have been trying to correct, there's been massive overreach from the federal to the states, from the states to the local, and we need to reestablish those healthy boundaries. Also, in my belief, there's a lot of compromised and corrupt politicians, court systems. Actually, I think all three, the executive, the legislative, and the judicial, are all really struggling right now, my opinion. The Constitution says all laws repugnant to the Constitution are null and void, and it is impossible to have a law which violates the Constitution. It's impossible for a law which violates the Constitution to be valid. So my question of concern is about local control. I don't know the answer to this. I'm kind of requesting a legal opinion at your convenience, because this might be some digging, but I believe, and this is hard for me to say because like Art, like Lori, I spent 30 years in public education, and I dedicated time, and came early, left late, made a lot of mistakes along the way, but I loved what I did. I rarely missed school, never took a sick day. I loved what I did, never stayed home sick once, because I loved it. I made a lot of mistakes. I'll be the first to admit I need to probably apologize to most parents in this town. I believe public education has been compromised and corrupted. It's somewhat of a monopoly when it comes to funding. Not even somewhat, it is a monopoly when it comes to funding. And local revenues are all forced to go into the public education system. And so what I'm asking, to my page, is there any, this is kind of an interesting question, is there any constitutional language which prohibits the local county from basically taking locally generated revenue and having it follow students? So I know that sounds a little crazy, but you've got the institution of public education, you've got this new school, and you've got people that are doing kind of co-ops locally. I didn't know if you knew that, but there's a lot of these homeschool co-ops that meet and do different things. So my property taxes as a taxpayer in Lander County go into a pool. The state takes all of the local, the net proceeds of mines, and of course, any state revenue, federal revenue, which is a very small amount, maybe 5%. And then they, look at what we have locally, and they make all of their adjustments through the Nevada plan, and then they give us back money, and it all goes to public education, and we get a DSA, a distributed amount for each student. I don't think constitutionally, I've tried to look, but I'm not an attorney and I don't understand 90% of it, that we have really a whole lot of say over what comes in federally and from the state for allocation. I believe that all has to go to public schools. So what I'm asking is, Lander County generated revenue. I think it's ethical, I don't know if it's legal, but I think it's ethical and moral for it to follow students. Because we as a county have students who are opting out of public education for a variety of reasons. And we need to honor that. At the same time, they're getting absolutely no revenue to follow them in their education. It's all falling back on parents. And as taxpayers, I'm wondering locally if there's anything prohibits us from saying, as a local entity, we're going to take local control and we're going to honor the wishes of our local parents. And we're going to have it, not necessarily write a check and give it to the parent, because there's not very many parents in here that have kids. Oh, Nalina. So here, Nalina, here's a check for Lander County's locally generated revenue that's allocated toward the schools, but it would go to wherever she is choosing to be educated. That's my question. I don't know if it's legal. I would like to dig into it. I think it's unethical what we're doing. And, public education has a place, but it shouldn't be the only show in town. Back in the Little House on the Prairie days, it was a completely different, it's essentially taken over and it has all control, and we need to have a balance for the kids who are opting out for a variety of reasons, and we need to honor that as a county. I'm asking if there's anything locally that prohibits the board from entertaining that. You may decide that you don't want to do it, it may be too political, but is there anything that prohibits that legally in Lander County?
State law, the states have control over the education.
Even local revenue?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're a subdivision, a legal subdivision of the state of Nevada. So that means that the state of Nevada, what laws that exist by state law, we can do everything that we're not excluded from.
Mm-hmm.
But we're excluded from having any control of the education system.
What about local property taxes? Could a local property tax owner do something to petition for taxation without representation?
Lander County,
I'm reaching here, I know.
they can put on a separate independent tax and put it to whatever purpose they want. It's a long, drawn-out process.
Yeah, I wouldn't want that.
I'm sure you could do that.
Yeah.
But as far as the taxes, some states have allowed tax dollars for education to go to charter schools
Yeah.
and follow the students, just like you're saying. But very few states, and Nevada's not one of them.
Okay. And
So-
locally, the
so
local
this
county has
argument-
no local jurisdiction to take
Well,
property
the
taxes.
local control argument is good on the state level when it comes to education.
Mm-hmm.
It's not good on the county level as a legal subdivision of the state.
Okay.
And because the state has retained all of that authority
Okay, for education
for education.
and for revenue
Right,
distribution.
right.
Amy,
Mm,
do
sorry.
homeschool parents get money?
No.
Or does the school district still get the money?
All the money goes to the school district. No,
Well,
but they-
they're not counted. If they're not counted in the attendance.
They don't get money.
don't get the money.
It-
they don't get any money,
It's
yeah.
who's sitting in the seat. That's why they have a problem with students being tardy. Because if they're too late, they don't get paid for that student on that particular day.
On that attendance day. Okay, well, thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you.
I do have one more thing I would like to add is, the Air Force will be here a day early. They won't be here the 3rd now, they'll be here the 2nd. So if you guys see some Black Hawks and some big helicopters flying in here, they're just coming in a day early.
They're not taking it over.
Yep.
All right. Gonna move forward. For consent agenda, all matters listed under the consent agenda are considered routine and may be acted upon by the board commissions with one action without extensive discussion. Any member of the board or any citizen may request that an item be taken from the consent agenda, discussed and acted upon separately during this meeting. Consent agenda materials are available at the Lander County Clerk's office for viewing, and copies are available for a nominal charge. 1, approval of September 9th, 2021 agenda notice. 2, approval of July 12th, 2021 special meeting minutes. Number 3, approval of July 22nd, 2021 meeting minutes. Number 4, approval of August 12th, 2021 meeting minutes. Number 5, approval of August 26th, 2021 meeting minutes. Number 6, approval of payroll change requests. So I have a motion on these.
I didn't receive any minutes, and I didn't receive any payroll change requests. So I will make a motion that we approve number 1, the agenda notice.
All right. Do I have a second? All right, Patsy made the motion, JR second, all in favor? Aye. All right. Number 1, discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the payment of bills. Got a motion?
I'll make a motion to pay bills.
All right. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Art made the motion, JR second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, for discussion, update and possible action to either modify, approve, or disregard the proposed contract by Elko County or to move forward with a Lander County library. All right.
I think you guys have kind of the email chain there in the backup that I'd sent over with our concerns and their response. From that point, I think I'll leave it over to Ted because he's our contract guy.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is not really a legal question because Elko's reached a point where they demand control at Elko. So we're gonna have our Lander County Library is in name only, Lander County Library. As long as you know that under this contract, under the terms and provisions they want us to follow. It should be Elko County Library in Battle Mountain or Elko County Library in Austin, because that's what it is. They want to retain all the control on who they hire, the hours, what goes in there, everything. If they get, and this is what Rotolo really was in disagreement with, is if they get money, if they apply for a grant and they buy equipment and everything with the grant, then it's their property. It's not Lander County's property, even if they use the grant for Lander County. This is a matter of local control. So you have to decide as a commission whether you want to cede control like we have been doing for years and continue the library as is, or whether you want to take that control and establish your own Lander County Library. Because we've reached a point in the negotiations where we don't believe Elko's gonna budge and they're not gonna cede any control at all to us. And I'd like HR to give some comments on what they wanna do with the employees that is against our policy. So there's layers of issues there, that you have to be aware of all of them. And Liz, could you please explain?
Well, part of their agreement, they pay retirement for part-time employees. Lander County's policy does not do that, and they're not willing to budge on that. Another section is they increased the salary for the Battle Mountain part-time employee, but they didn't increase it for Austin. They claim it's because Battle Mountain gets COLA and merit, and Austin doesn't, and that's not how we work. So they really didn't give us any response back on it. They just said that's just how it is.
Could I have a clarification on the actual contract itself? This is the way it has always been, has it not? It isn't that they've changed anything. We just simply questioned it when it came up last year.
No, there are some changes, and that's what if you go back through my email chain, that was what I went and pointed out, the 7 changes, because I know that when myself, you and Brian went and met with them
Right.
over their Elko County Library board meeting.
The ones in the email are the changes from our previous
Them are the
contract.
changes, and there's 7 changes that weren't in previous. Some may be as little as the word from shall to may or vice versa, but there were 7 changes that we addressed. And
Okay.
then these other things that are in the contract that you're referring to, like them paying, employees differently, some of them things have remained in the contract. So
You know,
there's
that's
kind of
interesting.
2 layers here that were,
Okay, because when I read through, I didn't realize those were the changes. I thought you were just questioning them.
There's 6 new sections that
Okay.
are completely added new clauses.
Okay, because I just thought you were questioning them on it, so, all right, I'm fine with that. And on the other one, on the part-time, we never used to pay that either,
No.
ever. We would never give the part-time an increase of the 2%. We only recently started doing that. And it's, like you said, all of a sudden, here sits one of ours in Austin that isn't
But
getting it.
in their response, they're saying Battle Mountain gets the COLA and a merit increase, and part-times don't get, even now, part-times don't get merit. They
No,
only get the
no, we do
COLA.
not. Oh, we do COLA now.
Yes.
Which we never did before. And it's not right for one of ours to be right in the middle of it and not get it. That does seem like, gee, and they weren't ready to give her a raise at all, apparently. They could do that.
Not in their contract, they didn't. They only gave Battle Mountain.
Yeah, I saw that. Okay, thank you.
My biggest concern on this is that, they haven't been doing a very good job in the library for a long time, I don't believe, and there's so much more that can be done, but my biggest fear is because we really don't know how to run a library, and that's not an insult on any way, that's just, it is what it is, and that if we give it back to, them, is a lose, and I wanted to make sure that if we do it on our own, that we do it to the very, very best of our ability. If we're gonna do something, we're gonna do it right, and that we don't exclude books because we don't believe in this, or we don't exclude this because we do a library like a library is supposed to be, and that we get programs in there for kids that wanna utilize it, cause there's just so much that can be done, and I hate to see us, it ponder and sit like that, like it has been, because it's such a wonderful resource, and that's my biggest fear. But it's not, we're not doing any good this way either. And I don't agree with them in the contract not allowing all of our employees to be the same. Like, well, Austin doesn't get with Battle Mountain, but that's not okay. And we have to be, that's not fair, and it's not. And so those are my biggest concerns, is that I just don't want it to sit there and we forget about it, and they only have this little thing that trickles along that we only put a little bit of money into, and we don't truly pay attention, because it's just a huge resource that needs to be paid attention to. So that's my 2 cents.
We have money put aside for this, or?
We do. Humboldt County has a good library.
And I've heard that.
And if you wish to proceed, and, I mean, you've had a policy of local control for 6 years that I've been in this seat. And it seems like most of your policies are around, you're tired as a county. I think we all are tired as a county of paying for another county's services, when the services are located in another county. Even if they bring them here, if they have total control, we have no say, we just pay the money. So it depends, if you're just tired of that, and you give Bert permission to go out, he would meet with Winnemucca and do it right. And this county does not believe in censorship in any way, Kathy.
No, I know, I just wanna make
And-
sure that,
and,
because that's always the first thing that people, you hear, well, we wanna make sure that we have, anything and everything that's supposed to, and we're not censoring.
Legally, I
so-
would not, I would fight against any type of censorship in any way. I don't agree with it. I believe it violates the First Amendment to the Constitution.
And I know that the public has had some concerns and wondering why we are taking over this and we're taking over this, and because it's not taking over, it's kind of taking back.
Okay.
And it's on some things, it's just taking back some control, and like I said, Elko, I haven't been overly impressed with, and if we can do it, but if we're gonna do it, we're gonna do it better. And that's just my main concern, is making sure that we, and I know that Winnemucca has a wonderful program, and that's also a very, as well as, and I know I've browbeated Round Mountain, but I know that's the Taj Mahal, but still it's absolutely incredible, and those are things that can be done here as well, so.
how was that funded in Round Mountain?
By tax dollars.
They have a separate
They levied
tax.
a tax, actually levied a tax, after they got started, they levied a tax, a percentage of the tax. Well, I'm not asking
So-
that, that's not what I'm asking for, but, that's why they have the Taj Mahal, is because they levied a tax, I'm not asking for a tax to be levied, I just ask if we're gonna do it, that we do it correctly and put the money into it that.
And what I'm kinda asking for in this item here is, and I think Ted as well, we don't want to be overstepping our grounds by holding a hard line with Elko until we have that approval from this board of what we are setting. Here's what we're expecting from you. If you guys can't meet these expectations, then we do want it back. But we need that hard line from this board on where we set that. What exactly do we wanna set these hard lines on? And you're dead spot on, we know nothing about running a library. You know, everything that the county has taken over or taken back, we've improved on. There's been some serious concerns with everything that we've taken back, but everybody, when they look back at it, they go, hey, it's a better system now. We have things that are really working well. The Austin Water is one of them. You know, people had some grave concerns with us touching Austin Water and Sewer. And I think if you talk to the people up there now, they're like, hey, this is a pretty good system we have going on, and it's ever improving. So, you know, I'm just throwing that out there that me and Ted just need some direction on what kind of hard line we need drawn for us. And we can draw that over to Elko County and make some negotiations, but we don't, neither me nor Ted wanna make them hard lines without this board's approval.
Right.
I think the hardest part for us is the time frame. And that's why we got that 3 months extension, July, August, and September, was so that we really could look at it. So with that, I believe that's what you've been doing. You've been looking to see if we can. So the question back to you is September 30th too quick for us? Are we all set to take it over, or do we indeed need to finish this contract and take it over next year? It would be
Well,
July 1st.
We would have to ask for another extension, or we would be agreeing to the new contract with all the changes, which I
Right,
don't
right,
think is a good idea. So I
absolutely.
think that if we were gonna stay with them, that we should ask for an extension, another extension of the old contract like we're currently on, and look at taking that over. I do know that some of the community was concerned with the library being closed for a period of time there. That wasn't Lander County, that was Elko County having trouble getting an employee in there. So, and that's a side note that I just wanted to make sure I threw out there today. But, what's that?
Go ahead.
But I do think that if we had another extension and did a little more research and had a better idea of what all entails in a library, because there is a lot, wouldn't hurt, and if they don't agree to it, I think that we could be successful at this point.
The whole goal of this has been to get local control back, and that's what I want to do. If we need an extension, then we go with an extension, but the goal is local control, make your contacts, and let's get our library rolling. And again, it'd be top shelf, just like everything else we do. So I've got no fears about anything, Bert.
And I think that's what we're asking for, is if that's a hard line we wanna draw with Elko, say, hey, if you guys can't come to the table with us and give us local control back, and us work through you guys, then maybe we do need to separate. Then that's a line that me and Ted will take, but we need the direction from this board to do so.
Because if they're getting grant money, we need to benefit from that too. You know, they write a grant, they get $250,000 and we don't get anything,
Well, we
not
get the use of the
They
monies,
get
temporary use of it. But they get ownership of all the equipment that's purchased with it.
like if they put new computers in with that money,
Right,
we're
it's
getting
there.
to utilize it, so we are getting use of it, we just don't.
we don't maintain ownership.
And
Yeah,
so-
there-
I have a
there's
public
no local
comment.
control, no local
Okay.
control.
I have a public comment from Linda McMahon. At an earlier meeting, I believe Mr. Ramos said that he estimated the cost of the library to be $70,000 plus salaries. The current contract from Elko charges $31,000 plus for their services. The balance of their charges are things that may not have been considered originally. If you try to set up a Lander County-only library, there is so much work to be done before you can consider this. Please do not leave us without a library, even if it is temporarily.
I think that's what it goes back to, and I also think that if we vote for an extension, that we may have to be prepared that they're not going to give us the extension. So with that, like I said, I think,
would agree to an extension if necessary. but only if necessary.
Well, then you wanna start everything, because the extension we have now terminates the end of September, and I don't think we're ready to take it
And that
over.
closes the library for the people who utilize it while we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah,
And that
that's-
kinda is not, that's not fair to
No,
the
I don't
public.
think so,
No.
so I think,
It may not necessarily be a closure of the library, we do own the books. I mean, some of them are theirs, but there are certain things we have ownership of that we paid for. And this 31,000 is not a correct, $31,000 is what they charge us just for their bookkeeping and stuff in Nalco.
Their fees.
It doesn't include salaries that we pay, and it doesn't include the equipment that we buy. So that $31,000 is not a fair value to be addressed by the commissioners, and that's all it's gonna cost us to have Elko do it. That's not true. We'll have no control. And how much do we pay total?
$120,000.
$120,000.
yeah, 120 is
We
the
pay
contract.
$120,000 through zero control. So you're either going to accept that, and that's what Bert's asking. Accept that, okay, that's the cost of having an Elko County Library in Battle Mountain and Austin, or say, no, that $120,000, you go find a librarian and set up our library. It's that simple, in my opinion.
So in asking for the extension, if that is where the board wants to go, where do we start the very beginning at ground zero? Okay, from October 1st, this is where we need to get the ball rolling and start getting things done if we're gonna have an extension, so we can have it completed.
Well, if they can't
Exactly.
contractually give control back to the county, then I think the first thing we do is we advertise for positions and get them positions filled. Most of Elko County stuff is already out of the library here in Battle Mountain. It's a matter of having somebody in there, opening the door, letting people in and out of our library at this point.
Same as Austin, as far as
And very
employee.
similar with Austin. Austin has its own set of challenges just finding employment. It's tough to get people to apply for jobs down there right now. I mean, Miss Patsy's giggling because she knows the struggles that we're going through right now. Yes.
So we need to fill.
Yes, she's very familiar with the struggles we're having right now, but that said, the keeping the library open is getting an application. That is really it. I'm hoping that the individual that's down there doing it now would want to reapply and work with the county. If not, then that puts us in another little bit of a situation that we have to get figured out. But it doesn't, I don't think, I'm with Ted, I don't think that it's something that's unconquerable. We can do this. It's gonna be a learning curve. There's a lot to this with the state archives and everything else that we have to be involved in. And there's gonna be some expenses, and it may come out to be slightly more expensive for us to do it. But we'll own our product when we're done, and it won't be a less of service.
Well, I think the real question is the time frame. I think everyone's pretty much on agreement with what's going on. So my concern is if they don't go for the extension, say we're not gonna do that, are we actually okay that we can start immediately? We'll have to make whatever motion we do to give you that authority, because we won't have time, because it terminates the end of September. I mean, we're talking 2 weeks, basically.
I do have a plan for Battle Mountain, I can tell you that, as far as being able to open our library. We do have
Okay.
a nice lady that busts her tail over there and opens that Civic Center every day.
Well, I
That
do
can
know.
open that as well, but the Austin one, we'd have to come through with somebody in there. As far as the,
Connie has already contacted you, and she's the current librarian.
correct,
That she did have an interest in staying, so we'd have to do the applications again,
Yep.
but we know we have somebody that would apply.
okay, that's great news, that's half the battle. But I would like to be able to reach out to Elko and say, hey, this is what we'd like. If you guys can meet these terms of Lander County, great. If not, we would ask for a couple month extension, and if you guys don't wish to grant us that, then we gotta start making our moves immediately. And I
Okay.
do think that we have time to do all of that.
No, I don't, but now what if they only agree to a couple of the things, but not all 6? I
They're
mean,
not gonna agree to any of them,
They're not gonna
Patsy.
you don't think so?
Absolutely not. We've,
We can attempt.
well, we can always say, we've been attempting for 2 months.
Well, I
but-
thought they might some. They did seem fairly open to at least talking with us, so I thought they might give us some.
they're not-
I have another public comment, sorry.
Okay.
From Linda McMahon again. Our libraries currently have very few books and no interlibrary loan system. I implore you to sign this contract and to take the time to research what needs to be done.
Thank you.
Okay, Rita Rogers for the Civic Center and on the library. I've been there 5 years, and I've seen what that library has done, and I've seen what Elko County has not done. I've never seen such. Have you ever seen Elko County here at any of your meetings when you sign contracts? Have they ever been here to talk about them or anything? Not since I've been in here.
Yes, they have.
And the one, and I don't want to go saying names or anything else. The young lady that's in there right now, I think would stay, and I know of another young lady that is standing in line. She is going to school right now for a library, and I know she would step right in to take over if she needed to. Yeah, we need to learn a lot, but isn't that in anything we do? I mean, if you start a new project or you do whatever, you take and you learn to do it. Just like me at the Civic Center. I've changed things, I've learned, and that's the only way we're gonna grow. And right now, with Elko County, we're not gonna grow. It has done nothing. Those computers are so old in there, and yet people can sit at that computer and they can do pornography and they can do Al-Qaeda, and the gal that's working cannot say one word to them because that's private. And yet I'm standing back here and I'm watching it when I called the cops on it and stuff. So there's a lot that needs to be said on this. And if we have to deal with Elko County, well, they're 75 miles away. We need to do our own stuff for Lander County, for Battle Mountain. And I know Austin can do it because I'm pretty sure there's some people in Austin that would take it on. I mean, I've been in Austin for years, so this is something I think we really, really need to look into, is running our own library. And I know of a couple that would come in and really help us set up. She has a library that she goes to, and I won't mention names right now. You walk in, it's a little town. They have a section over here for children, computers for children. They have a section over here for adults, you know. And it's little, but they've set it up for the whole community, not just what we've got here in this library.
So Elko County doesn't have a firewall against the things that you mentioned?
I don't know.
I know that they're in investigating that. They had stated that a statement was made that it had happened, that wasn't something that was going on all the time regardless. It doesn't matter if it happened once or if it's happened 5 times, that it happened one time and.
Yeah, and this happened a while back.
To put it in, I mean, I wanna make sure we put this stuff in perspective. Yes, these are issues, but it's not something that we have someone doing a manifesto in our library, because that's not exactly that's not what it was, but. You know, those people were caught, told and asked not to come back, but yes, the library doesn't help in controlling it either. So, I mean, that is an issue that I don't, you know, I mean, we need to put those type of things into perspective.
And the only reason
I don't wanna see also putting a fear into people that that's what's been going on.
Right.
You know, what, you know, has been going on, so.
My concern was the person that is running that library, the reception that's in there. She should have control of, if something's not going right, to do something about it. She had to sign a paper not too long ago with Elko that if she walked from the library to my office to ask me any questions, that she would be fired. And every time she turned around, she was going to be fired by Elko County, by a young lady that's running it.
Well, and
this is why I brought all of this up.
And with that being said,
So-
and I think that when there's those type of issues,
Yeah.
when we have a contract, that was something that should have been brought to the county where we could have dealt with it, because you have to really know, what's going on, or
Right.
is there something fear-based because it's fear-based because somebody said something, or is there something
And this,
in writing? So,
yeah,
I mean,
this lady feared
well,
for her job.
And I respect that, I do, Rita, but you have to make sure that if it was fear-based just because she was afraid, or something that was tangible that she'd signed, I mean, that you have to find out, because obviously this county would never let that go on, regardless if we were in contract with them or not. So, she would have needed to speak up, obviously, to even just our county, if that was truly going on, and I'm not saying that it wasn't, but we have to, I mean, there has to be fact-based on those kind of things. So, there's a lot of there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done
There's a
here.
lot of stuff that does need to be done, and we really need to improve our library.
Yeah,
And
and that's,
the only way we're gonna get that done is we do it.
We're all in agreement to that.
So,
So,
okay.
Comment from Austin.
okay, go ahead.
This is Charlie Vaughn.
Okay.
On the library issue, it seems that we're under the gun for time, and if we move forward, people are just going to have a lot of grace to go through the changes throughout the year. Another option might be to accept the contract this year and then have a committee or whoever within the county wants to come together to formulate the plans to start again next year under county control rather than Elko County. So it gives time to set the framework for what kind of a library the county wants.
All right, so I was, am I under this understanding correctly that they've already come in and pulled out a bunch of their books already under the, so they've already, came in, Elko's already came in and removed a bunch of their books and their things already out of there. I don't know if that, I don't know if that's, we're gonna pay that much money for that much less, cause I can't see them coming back and restoring all of that stuff that they've taken out. They may put a little bit of it back, so then we're actually getting less for what we're paying for. So
this reveals an attitude of Elko County towards Lander County that I'm not sure we can tolerate.
well, and that's, I mean, that's the struggle, is because this library has been undermanaged by them. We pay this amount of money into it, and it's not getting any better. And it's just something, I don't know if it had been overlooked for years, or, because there are lots of people in this community who use that library. And I won't, like I said, we're trying to make the best decision for the community to get that, for what we're paying for, to get that up to what it needs to be, so.
Comment from Austin.
Okay, go ahead.
Right.
Can't hear her.
I really think that it's time for us to put our feet to the fire and find out from the community who's going to jump in and help us out. It looks like we have pledges from somebody who doesn't really have the experience, that have a lot of fire. We've got a lot of people who care about the Austin location. We have an employee who is pledged to stay. We have a city manager who cares about what's happening over here in Austin. We have the entire community who doesn't want to be treated like a stepchild. We have a lot of people who love library and the library system. We have a county and a contract that is not favorable to us here in Austin. Not favorable to Battle Mountain either. And I'm a newcomer to the situation, everything that's gone on, and the past. But as a businesswoman in the Austin community and a businesswoman at large for many, many years, it looks like we have enough support, even on a volunteer basis, for enough people to come in and come together and pull it together. And we might have a rocky road together. And as Charlie just mentioned, we're going to need a little bit of grace. And we're going to make some mistakes. And we might need a little bit extra money. And we may not. We may find that the whole community is going to rally around this, because libraries are a place of truth and gathering. And once the people begin to gather in Austin, in Battle Mountain, in areas where we have lacked support in the past, we're going to find people, employees like Connie, who's been treated unfairly and with disparity, even in her pay scale. We're going to find that there's going to be probably a groundswell of support that's going to get us through the next year, 2 years, policy, budgeting. I think we're going to find that we have everything that we need to launch a library system that works for all of us here in Lander County. Thank you.
Thank you. right, Lori, go ahead.
Okay. Well, Lori Price, just a citizen in Lander County. I'm not saying I'm for or against doing a library, but I think it sounds like everyone is worried about the timeline. I mean, I don't want to jump into something. You guys want to make it great. I want to make it great. I think it needs to be great for Battle Mountain and Austin. But my concern is jumping into something that we're not ready for. Because why do that to ourselves if we don't have to? As far as the extension, do you? I know you don't think there's going to be one. You don't think Elko County will work with us. Maybe there's been too much water under the bridge between Elko and Lander County. I don't know, but who's working in the library now? Who runs the library now?
Them are Elko County employees still.
We don't have anybody in Battle Mountain that's running our library right now?
Well, we do, but they are Elko County employees under the current contract of Elko County.
I realize that, but who's the person from Battle Mountain that's running the library right now?
I am not certain of that. They just switched employees the other day, and that's what I was saying with the
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
with the
nobody knows who's
downfall.
running the library right now.
No, because it's under Elko County. It's under contract with Elko County. We don't have any say in that.
I realize that, but we don't know who the Battle Mountain person is, or is it an Elko person that's coming down every day?
The only information we have is what Elko decides to give us when they want to give it to us.
I mean, short of going down there and seeing who's in there, I don't know, and I haven't done that. I haven't gone down there to see, who the new librarian is.
We have no representation on their library board, none.
Okay, so is this contract what Elko's done? And these were things that Bert and you were trying to get changed? Or were they trying to change it?
We were.
No, there's a mix there. There's a mix there. Let's clarify. These are two different contracts. We've been under a contract with Elko County for years that had maintained. Well, they changed some of the verbiage in the contract and wanted us to re-sign a new contract with different verbiage. Some of them things, there's six of them questions in there,
Yes.
are changes to the contract.
That they made or you guys did?
That they made.
Oh.
And so
We responded to.
yes. Which brought us to kind of where we are. It's not, and so everybody knows it won't just be like we're just taking over blindly at this point. We've been looking at this and talking to them and going through a lot of the motions, trying to figure out how the county would run a library ourselves, what archives we have to have, what it costs to join the state, who can do a whole bunch of things. So we aren't going in completely blind at this point.
Sounds like there's an awful lot of things to do before you start the library. but-
There's an awful lot of things. Anything you take over, there's a lot of things. And it doesn't matter even if it's stuff you're familiar with. When we took over the Austin Water Department, there's a lot of things that we have to re-familiarize ourselves with, even though we have great water techs and sewer techs. There's a lot to familiarize ourselves with it, just the same as there will be with this library. But we aren't going in completely blind. It's the change in the contract that they've sent over to us. It's the fact that they're wanting to keep all the items that they choose what they do and don't give us based on grants that they apply for and get. And a big portion of these grants that they apply for and get is because of us smaller communities. Elko they have their own library that's really nice. They can upgrade whatever they want, and then they can kick everything out to Eureka and Lander on the outskirts of that. Rita had spoke to the computers. I think in one of our contracts, they were supposed to provide us 10 new computers. These are the kind of questions that we're saying, hey guys, we want to be on the front of your to-do list, not on the back of it. And it's just that simple. I don't think I don't know that we've burnt any bridges with Elko per se, that they may not re-up another 3 months with us. It's money in their pocket. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Well, I'm hoping that will happen, because I think just listening to everyone's comments, we need more time to get the library.
We don't know if we need more time or not.
You don't?
We don't know. I mean, we really don't know. But one thing we do know for sure, we can't make any improvements on our library. Our library, if we stick with Elko, can never get any better than it is right now, Laura.
I understand all of that, and I think everyone else does too.
No one wants that.
That's not the issue I'm talking about. I'm talking about.
Okay.
Then I'll let you.
I'm sorry.
Bert,
Wait,
can you handle this?
yes,
Can you get it rolling?
Let Ted finish what he's saying, please.
Oh, I thought you were finished.
So what I'm saying is that Everyone wants an improvement in our library. We will never get it through Elko, never.
I understand that.
So if we have to step in next week, we can give the same services that they're giving now. The same. But we want to give better. It's our library.
I understand.
It's our community, and we should have local control. That's my personal opinion.
And some,
Okay.
Bert said something that makes
I'm
a lot of
just
sense.
worried about the time.
I know, me too, but I think that we have to, we can do this, and something that you said that makes a lot of sense is they put in grants, because of those, for us, because we have these little libraries like Austin and Battle Mountain, because we're attached, they're able to put into these grants that they're too big to get. However, that stuff that they're putting in for the grants is not trickling down to us. So they're able to utilize it, and those things are not trickling to us. So
I understand that.
and that's not okay. And that question was I had asked once before. Now, you're putting in $25,000 for new computers 3 years ago, and because we had this uproar, the lady goes, well, we want 7 more computers, but we want you to pay for them, but yet they put in there had been a grant applied for that. So those things are, they'd already put in for grants for it, and then the lady for the librarian was here, she said, well, we were gonna come to you guys and ask for money for new computers. Well, so we were going to pay for them, and there's been at different times grants put in for that stuff, that the stuff is not, the trickling down effect is not trickling down all the way. Always, it's not. And so, I think that our libraries get the shaft, and we're paying this amount of money, and we're not getting anything for it in return, other than a human being sitting there, and.
I totally understand all of that.
And I know
I'm
you
just
do.
worried about
As
jumping in
am I.
and not
I
being
am
ready.
too. I am too.
I have another public comment from Linda. She says, per the contract, oh, hold on, she just did another one. Elko has guaranteed a certain number of volumes in their contract. I believe the books would be returned to honor the number of volumes. Per the contract, you do have a say in recommending employees. Have you budgeted to buy books right now? You have very few. Have you budgeted for software to issue library cards and check out books? Have you budgeted for an interlibrary loan system? I want to respond to her on the part where she says we have no say. If you do go into this new contract, we will not have no say.
By contract.
They changed the language.
So she's in error.
So,
And the library can be as good as you want it to be.
and yes, there are some wonderful
Unless
programs,
we're-
as we saw.
Unless we're in a contract with Elko, then it can't be as good as you want it to be. That's my main point.
Blake and Sullivan, for the record, I just wanted to respond to Linda too, that we did budget to buy all this stuff if we do take it over. So we do have money in the budget if we need to buy a software system or books or whatever.
Okay, very good.
For 6 years, the computer issue with the library has been stagnant. It's always been the computers don't work, the computers are old. We can update the computer system, and that's gonna bump us up several levels on having our own library.
Well, there's tons of resources out there that I say that if, however, this board votes, that we jump on immediately, because there are some wonderful programs out there that we start moving on right away, and so we don't lose the trust of the community that we are moving forward, and it's not sitting there stagnant, because I understand their fear that you guys don't know what you're doing, and I get it, but I would rather learn and get this done and keep moving, making sure we're moving along and doing it the right way, than it to sit the way it is. So we'll entertain a motion unless we have any further public comment.
You know, it's only right that we certainly give them a time frame, and the time frame has been with our extension, so they expect things to stop the end of September. Do you have a date set up? Is there a meeting set up, Bert, or anything for you to go forward with it? Hi.
Right now, our library looks like a thrift store.
Could you state your name for the record?
Ruth O'Day. It looks like a thrift store.
Turn that right that little button in front. Right there.
That's it.
Right now, our library looks like a thrift store bookstore. There's a wonderful young woman there that's real enthusiastic. She has children. I think she'd be wonderful with the kids. But are we willing to hire a grant writer and IT and all that? There's a lot to it, and it sounds like no one here has invited the Hadley people who offered to come and let you know what it takes. And they thought that a year was ridiculous to be able to get everything set up, that it would really take longer than that, with all the connections you have to get interlibrary loans. And I agreed with the Austin person that we renew the contract for another year and make Elko bring the books back and do the IT according to their contract, and at least have them do that. And then we be actively doing all that we need to do, whether the contact Winnemucca, but it takes a long time to set all that up. And I believe, as several of you said, that the time frame is the problem.
We have IT though, I mean, the county has IT that would be working with that. We would be dealing with that part, getting it figured out. It's the.
But we need books, I mean, there's, yeah.
And I know that.
And
but
make
I don't know,
Elko do that for the next year.
are they going to do that?
But be
though?
all set up.
That's where the.
If we just do
is.
extensions, they aren't gonna keep bringing them back. I'm sure they took them because you guys were gonna end it. And so, it's really sad in there. But I think the woman there is really wonderful, and I think it's sad that no one here knows who's in our library, if that's the thing you're making decisions on.
I
And
believe her name is Isabella. She's
Yeah.
a nice lady.
yeah, really wonderful person. And I think you need to listen to the other librarians, and because Hadley was willing to do something with Skype or whatever that is, to listen to them and see what all it really takes. I can tell from the conversation, no one really knows, and it's a lot. And if you want to do it right, go to them. Maybe we can't do as much as they have, but they'll really set you straight. So I hope you make an informed decision instead of, I've heard a lot of misinformation here, and it's sad. So I hope you do the right thing and get us a good
There
library.
has been but a comment on that. When this first came up, and we were looking at the contract originally, the decision of the board at that point was not to sign that contract. So we looked at the same thing. If we could sign it and go ahead for 1 year and then do our investigation. But the board's decision at that point was that we would not sign that contract, and would Elko please give us an extension for 3 months so we could look into our own. So that level is passed.
Right.
So
right.
now it's the end of our extension. Now what do we do? If they don't extend it any further, it's ours.
Right.
And but like
And
I
we
said,
don't have anything.
with your information, with what we said to extend, we'd already decided not to sign the contract.
Well, and I don't think extension would do any good. They aren't gonna bring books back if we're only gonna
Really,
extend for 2
3
months.
months wouldn't help
And
a whole
nobody
lot.
can use their library card to do things on the internet to get books. So we're closed off right now in all different ways. And like I said, a thrift store might have even more of a selection than we do right now.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Two things. I agree with her. This county library is embarrassing. It's not gonna get better with Elko County involved. Sometimes it's really hard because you have to take that leap of faith. But this county has shown over and over again that you guys have the will, the resilience to make it better. There may be, just like the two people in Austin said, we need to give you guys grace while you make this transition. But when my kids were young, and granted that was 20 years ago, I would drive to Elko to their library because even then this library was so unimpressive. I spent the last 8 years working for Humboldt County School District, and they were so amazing and so involved in the schools, and they do art shows. I would recommend you just have those, contract with them and have them come over once or twice a week and work with you. Send our people over to Humboldt County for a day or two, look at the different activities they have going on. They have a wonderful program. Elko has a really nice program in Elko. It's not gonna change, and at some point you just take a leap of, it's not even with faith, because there has been due diligence done. If you already have personnel involved, Austin said they're gonna step up and help each other, and there's gonna be need for grace, because there'll be a little transition, birthing pains, growth pains. But local control is the right move, local control for everything. And Elko has, I graduated from Elko High School. They have done absolutely nothing for our library program. It's embarrassing. I used to take my kids in there and it was almost just dusty and dark and no life to it. If you take control of it, there's no doubt in my mind within 2-3 months, might take a little while, it'll be alive and pulsing and there'll be activities. So I have faith in you guys.
I do
even
have
though
a
it might be
comment.
rocky.
I do have a comment on this. You know, there is that moment of time there in the interim where there's gonna be a little growing pain because we don't have the authority to sign anything for our library until we take back possession. Does that make sense? Well, you guys haven't done anything. Well, we really can't do anything until we have control. If you guys so choose to give us that, but I just want to make sure everybody knows there's going to be a few weeks there where we are getting some contracts signed with the state, and we are getting on the archives, and we are getting some library cards and getting the IT in there to get involved. But that's going to be no matter what. You can't prepare for that other than jump in the middle of that. There is no preparation for that because you're redoing a bunch of contracts. So there is going to be downtime no matter how prepared we become. And I just want to point that out for clarification because there does need to be a small amount of grace given if we take that back, just to get ourselves incorporated into a lot of these systems.
Okay, so what you have done in the last 3 months is what needed to be done. So what we're saying is if we sign the contract right now, we aren't going to gain anything with any more information of waiting 6 months or 6 weeks. It's not going to make any difference, right?
Correct.
So we don't need another 6 months to make this decision, because that was our main concern, is how long we needed. So if you've done everything that we can possibly do up until the end, then why do we need?
Well, that's entirely up to you guys. That's
Well,
what
that's
we're
where,
about.
do we make sure that every meeting you come back and we say where we're at? As far as, because that's something that can be.
Just like Bertolo
Yes,
pointed out,
every time.
we can't do anything until
Until
we have
decision.
the authority to make
Okay,
decisions.
what would we gain by this 3-month extension?
Nothing.
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 Okay.
I gain not having much responsibility for 3 months with the library. That's about the only gain.
And that's the bottom line,
Yeah.
doesn't it? So.
It'll make my job easier too, so.
So,
Bert, I really think we ought to just
Go ahead, Joe.
let Elko go their way and we'll start our library.
And I will.
Why spend any more money with them if we're not gonna get anything out of it? Let's spend that money on us and build our library.
And if we're worried about hiring somebody that knows what they're doing in that library, Claire Hamilton knows everything, and right now she had to take a short retirement because of her husband. But she will take and come in and do whatever she has to help do this. The little gal that's in there right now, Isabella, she's awesome. She's learning, she's getting it done. But I had another young lady come to me about when to hire in there, and I told her she had to go through Elko. Well, right now she's going to school to be in the library system and stuff. So we have people out there that are going to be qualified to walk right into this job and help us.
But the system's not also that easy, as we found out.
Yeah.
We have to make sure that we get a hold of, like, Humboldt County and Hadley, find out what systems they have, figure out which is gonna work the best for the county, and jump on that and get that started, because there's a lot to the,
And Humboldt would be great.
And I will
They know
say
what
this,
they're
the
doing.
state and everybody that we have reached out to, myself and Theodore, are extremely helpful. They don't know much about how a transition goes from moving out of Elko to our own, but they want help in anything they can. They are, extremely helpful. There hasn't been anybody there's no really hard feelings. That's why, like I say, as far as Elko, I think the only confusion that we have going on with Elko right now is if we're going to stay with them or if we're not. I don't think that they have a big distaste for us, nor do we have for them. There's a lot of research going on both sides, and finding that common ground is about the only thing that we have right now that's of issue. But everybody's really helpful and have been.
I'll make a motion. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Rebecca Lake. So I am going to school right now for my degree in library science and media. So I just wanted to put it out there that I think the first thing to do is get a library committee after we make this motion and get this going as soon as possible. And I'm willing to dedicate any of my time to help with that. So.
Thank you very much. And yes, I agree, so however we get that, we'd be able to get that set up, to get that board right away.
Well, we can't.
However that works.
We really can't until we take over.
No, I know that, that's what I'm saying, if a decision is made to go that way, then,
Then at the end of September, we can do it.
Well, that, and then this board here becomes the library board until we actually have one in place. We went through kind of some of these steps.
okay.
I make a motion that we direct Bert to, work on our own Lander County library.
That's,
No, we've already gone,
Do
we've
that.
already done that, like Patsy
And,
pointed out.
and,
What we need right now is, we either do not get into a contract with Elko and start our own library system.
that was the second part of my motion.
Okay.
And to discontinue the contract with Elko County.
Alright, 1 second.
I do have one more public comment.
Well, alright.
Linda McMahon, what happens on September 30th? Library cards will not be valid. How can you check out a book?
Have to wait for our new system.
We gotta get that authority
We have to
first
get a new
before we
system.
can reinstate.
Yeah.
And I think that, on that, I think we should respect the library card length, and, you know, we're not too concerned about things like that.
Right, the next day, we can have it set up where every library card in existence is now valid as a Lander County library card. It won't be valid as an Elko.
But it's still valid in,
Still valid.
in Austin,
Lander
so,
County.
alright. Leap of faith, so Art made the motion and, JR second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Alright. We're gonna take a 10-minute break. Gonna go back into meeting.
This conference will now be recorded. Unmuted.
Okay. All right, guys. All righty. So number 3, for discussion and possible action to approve or disapprove the request of China Springs Youth Center, who is experiencing an unexpected revenue shortfall for Lander County's American Recoveries Act funding. So this one, I believe you said, is we never received. Are we ready to go?
Who's going?
Do we have anybody online for this?
Do we have anybody online for China Springs? All right, you need to mute your. Yes, thank you.
Unmuted.
Are we good to?
I'll ask him.
Okay.
I don't know. Yes, letter's in there. Where's your backup? For 3. Who signed the letter? Garrison. No, Wendy Garrison.
So
I don't see it.
There's no one on there. All right. So, if I'm correct, they're requesting the money from the American Recovery Act Fund, which we received no money from. So then we are unable to give any funding from something we didn't receive.
That's correct.
So that's pretty upfront and
And
basic.
and we put the letters back up, so that's my interpretation of that letter, is, do you have the same interpretation? Is that?
Well, if they're requesting the American Recovery Act Fund from that, then we have no funds available for that, under that request.
It says, yeah. Where's
And
the?
I see this was suggested by NACO. which we're not a part of either.
Request for the
Ted, is
Local
this,
Recovery Act.
how many kids do
Yeah.
we send from Lander County to China Springs every year? Do you have any kind of numbers on that?
One, maybe.
Okay.
Zero.
This is
Zero.
just- This is like the Leighton Hall thing?
And this letter says, and I quote, "At the suggestion of the NACO Working Group, this request for American Recovery Act funding is being made to your county."
So they're just, it's basically a form letter to all the counties who
Right.
received it, however we did not.
Right.
So we don't have the funds. so-
Exactly. But we needed to put it on.
But we should answer them.
So, yeah, so it
Well,
needs
that's what
to,
we're
a
doing.
motion be made. I mean,
Yeah.
does a motion still need to be made even though we don't have the
Yes.
funds? Okay,
Yes.
so- Okay,
Yes.
so,
And that's our answer to them.
all right.
But I mean, it goes
Form that
beyond this.
later.
Someone will actually contact them and tell them.
That's what you do by I would imagine we should do it by writing and send them a letter and tell them
But we never received any funding, therefore we can't fund their.
project.
I'll make a motion that since we did not collect the recovery money, that we don't fund this request.
All right, got a second? I'll second it. Art made the motion, JR second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Alright. So, update, from our extension director. Hello.
Hi. Lois Urquiaga. I became the Lander County Extension Educator on July 1st. And the first priority was renovating the building and getting an idea on the inventory that we had of extension equipment and vehicles. We're in the process of starting auctioning off the vehicles, the trailers, the campers, and then on the small equipment that was used for the bootstrap program, we're going to donate those items to another nonprofit that has a similar structure as the bootstrap program, and hopefully they can utilize some of that stuff. I started attending meetings and talking to folks about opportunities in Lander County, as well as maybe some needs, and then I attended the treasurer's meeting here at the Owl Club, and I heard a common theme about children and teens, additional programming for them. So there's two opportunities. One, as a priority, I'm going to start working on building the 4-H programs back that we had prior, and some of the problems has been COVID, obviously, right? So but we're going to build those back, so I'm looking for volunteers. If you know anybody that wants to, please give them my number. If you want to volunteer somebody, give me a name. Anyway, the beauty about the 4-H program as well is that it's extremely flexible. For example, if you had one person, say that wanted to do canning and preserving on one Saturday in October, then that's the entire program. So it doesn't have to be something that is all time consuming. We have resources available. We have places that we can work with. The building is set up for, conducting classes and that type of thing. The other avenue is setting up something where we're utilizing maybe some STEM or STEAM training. So STEM, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, and those types of things. And UNR already has all the curriculum. Not only is it evidence-based and free to us, we don't have to pay for it, they have experts that'll come down and help us teach. So I think that's a great opportunity, maybe in the new library, right? And the other thing that does is it really develops a mentoring opportunity for adults and our teens, which helps with communication and problem solving, social skills. We need to work on some of those. So that's where I'm focused right now, but I'm sincerely open to any ideas about programming or any development or educational opportunities. Please give me a call.
Well, and we just got the greenhouse, so I think that to utilize that, help utilize part of that for these programs also.
Oh, sure. And shoot, our rec center. We have a beautiful rec center, so maybe some of that training we can utilize that facility, as a, team building or whatever. So, yeah, there's stuff out there we can use. We don't need,
To
to
reinvent
start.
the wheel.
No, but there is stuff out there that we could truly, I think, make some services available to our teens. And then, of course, on the way back burner, I'd really like to look at some programming and services for our seniors, but I'm not there yet.
Yeah.
So questions?
While you are putting your plans together for
Yes.
your futures, don't forget the South.
Oh, of course. Most definitely.
Please. And we do have our greenhouse too, so that will be at the senior center in Austin next year when we get ready to do that, perhaps a program around that.
Okay.
You mentioned STEM, but I hope you know that there are also grants available. There is a STEM advisory board that gives grants.
Yes.
Okay, so.
I did hear that.
So that too, and welcome aboard. We're so glad you're.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Any other questions, comments?
Yeah, I've got a question.
Sure.
Would bring bootstraps back?
No.
Why?
Because
That was one program that Austin absolutely loved because they had access to wood.
that's a good point. I did talk to my supervisor, Holly Gatsky, and some of the other people, and they thought that with the things that are, as we're moving forward, that the bootstrap program has run its course and that we needed to focus in a different direction.
Okay.
So I'm like, okay. So anyway,
The power
that's,
of above.
yeah. If it's something that we truly think that we can move forward on, I would at least try. I would see if I could find some people that had that area of expertise. Definitely not my area, but we could take a look at it if you think it's important. So,
Very good. Any questions? Well, thank you so much.
thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
All right, so we are going to recess the Board of Lander County Commissioners and reconvene a meeting, the Lander County Electric Board, composed of Lander County Commissioners and the Lander County Sheriff.
Ron Hugger for the record. We've got an application from Cindy Alea. Did I say that right, Cindy? Huh? Ayala. Anyway, and this is for a liquor license. It'll be on the catering and on the mobile side of it, since we wrote this up. And we've done the background checks on it. Everything is checked out okay. We find no problems whatsoever.
And it's falling under the catering portion of the
Yes,
license
the catering and the mobile,
and the mobile.
right.
Okay.
She has a little taco wagon there at the Midway, is where it's parked.
They do catering too, like weddings or whatever?
Yes,
So the license follows the mobile unit
yes, sir.
for both catering and everything.
That is correct.
So wherever that unit is, that's where the license is.
Out of county, yeah.
We don't have
In
it.
our county.
We can't
And as
own
long
it.
as it's
Just
not
in our
close to
county.
School districts.
So if we approve just one, just say we approve the catering one, that means if they go somewhere and set up for that particular location for a group, they could sell the beer and liquor. But if we don't approve the mobile one, that means that they can't do it like every day.
I believe that's correct in the way that the new
That-
policies are written.
That's how it's written.
I believe so. Robert, do you agree with that?
Yeah.
So there's two.
So there's two is what
Okay,
she's asking for.
Okay, because I have a real concern out of just selling out of a mobile one, when we've got bars and permanent places and restaurants that have it. I guess that's kind of a concern to me, but I'm,
Except we passed this with a mobile in there. I mean, we passed this new, liquor license ordinance, didn't we?
Mhm.
And
We
in
did.
there you
We
have
did.
the mobile in there,
We
so-
do.
And so,
Well, you have, what you're doing, if you allow this when you're creating a new policy,
Didn't we, I thought we already did that,
Well, you've never given a liquor license for a mobile unit.
and I respect that, but why would we write it into our policy?
Because we tried to take every possible, we took a scheme from a larger, area. And that's why it's in there.
Now it's up to us to approve it if we want to.
Whether you want it to apply that to your county.
And I respect that, I understand
So,
that.
I mean, if you're thinking of saying yes just because it's in our scheme, I would advise you against that approach.
And I understand that, though we should have never put it in here if it was something that was going to, by approval, do that. I mean, I think
Start a
that,
policy?
start a I mean, why would you,
Well, how would we anticipate that?
like,
It wasn't anticipated that we
And
borrowed the screen from a larger.
and then I respect that,
area.
but the anticipation is that it was written in here, it now had it not been written in here, then I could see that, but the anticipation was already put out there when it was written in to begin with.
There's a lot of laws that,
No, I'm just, I don't understand, I'm not,
just because the laws there doesn't mean you have to allow. This is a licensing thing. It's not a speed limit or something. This is a request, and by granting it, you will establish new policy. That's it. It'd be easy to say no if we didn't, it wasn't part of the scheme. Now it's a harder decision for you to make, but you just need to know that you're gonna adopt a policy. That's all I'm saying.
and I
I'm not
respect that.
for or against it, I'm just.
No, you're not. I'm just trying to make me understand that. I mean, I totally understand where you're coming from, and I'm just trying to understand why we would even put that in there if we were gonna cause a concern. We should have just left
Okay,
it out.
maybe we should have discussed this a
That-
little
okay,
bit
well,
further.
No, go ahead, that's fine.
No, I understand what you're saying, Commissioner. You're saying we should have discussed this further, but we didn't. So now it's before us whether we indeed want to set a precedent and go forward or not.
So can you split them as the, and I'm not saying this sarcastically, I'm actually asking this question.
Yes, the two separate
Can you
requests.
pull them apart and grant one without the other?
Yes. Don't you agree, Robert?
That was my first question. I thought we answered it.
I thought you did too.
Robert Quick, the Sheriff's Office. That would be a legal question.
I believe there were two requests,
So-
correct? Ron?
But they are two separate licenses that
Okay.
are
So
requested.
yes, we
Okay,
can.
okay,
Is my legal
Okay.
opinion.
all right.
Okay, my other question, and this is to the sheriff, because I see we have so much blanked out on this application that is, of course, public record. So I am asking you if all your information on the original that you hold is not blacked out?
I didn't, see when I reviewed this, I didn't see
Well,
anything
it's
as
not
far
because
as
they
blacked
added it.
out.
There, for example, there isn't one address on here, not one.
Robert Quick for the Sheriff's Office. We black out personal identifiable information. It's confidential.
The
But
address?
the application we have is complete,
Thank you.
that we have on file.
Thank you.
Did that answer that? Okay.
What's the concern about giving the license so that she can sell alcohol?
Well, I'm assuming that the concern is that, well, I know that we've never granted a license to a vehicle, a wagon, a unit that can go from point A to point B at whim. And so they can sell alcohol here, then they can go 10 blocks away and sell alcohol there, right out of the unit.
What about the alcohol that's sold at events at the park?
Those are special events.
That's a
They just get a special
temporary.
event?
Right, so this is why I said you establish a kind of a new policy with this. And it's what direction you wanna go. I mean, if maybe when this was brought up, we would, I don't know, it's hard to go through each and every element of that statutory scheme and say, well, what, this may happen or this may happen. We don't know until the applications are made how it's going to affect us. So you make the policy. I believe it's a policy determination. Do you want, because if she does it, there's nothing to prevent somebody else from doing. And pretty soon you could have a few carts going around selling alcohol out of them. Is that what you want? I don't care. It's policy.
What's the concern? What's the downside?
I guess my concern is if you're grabbing a sandwich and a beer, you're usually in the middle of something on your way to work. So it's like, you know, in the middle of the day or in the evening or whatever, and there's no place to sit and enjoy. That you're just picking up the liquor and leaving, and I have a problem just going and picking up the problem. If you sell off-site, then that's different because you're taking the alcohol and it's not.
It's not open.
It's not open.
This is an open container.
Yeah,
The
this is an
person
open
can probably
container.
get into a vehicle and they're going to have an open container in the vehicle, or they're gonna be walking. If they're walking, they're gonna have an open container while walking, unless they drink it right there on the premises, but there's really no premises. The premises are wherever she parks the unit.
So the downside is somebody may stop there on the way to work and get something to eat and drink a beer?
Well, where are they gonna drink it?
What if they take it with them?
They're gonna take it with
Arthur?
them.
It's not her problem. It's not Richard's problem.
It's your problem, because you're allowing the person to potentially break the law by having an open container.
But we're absolved from any responsibility. She takes all the responsibility.
Really?
Well, that's
Is
what
it
it
an
says
open-
on the form.
Is it
Yeah,
an open
well-
tap, or are you selling it by like a bottle of beer, or are you selling it open cup, full, like off a tap?
Well, okay, so I understand your concerns, but like any grocery store, you can walk in and get your beer and take it to work equally.
It's unopened.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
no,
That's
it'll,
what I'm
it'll be
saying.
closed, and we do hope to provide, seating, if this is approved, because this is what our customers are requesting. And it's similar to, I have my, license to operate food safety, and everywhere we go, we take that with us, so it'll be similar.
That's not what I'm asking. There's a difference between a foam tap of open beer
Yeah.
and a bottle, a closed beer. So
Yeah,
that's
it'll
my-
be closed.
Is if it's closed, it's one thing, it's no different than a grocery store buying a beer and a sandwich and
Right,
getting in your
right,
vehicle.
right.
Versus getting a thing like this filled with beer and sitting there drinking it.
Yeah.
So the responsibility is a little different. 'Cause maybe you're gonna go home and eat your sandwich and drink your beer.
Right, right.
So.
Yeah.
Well, here's something that I thought of. When they park the lunch wagon, does the owner of the property have any say on what's sold?
The owner of the property has a say on whether it's parked there or not. And if anybody is hurt as a result of it, the owner of the property gets sued as well as the county that allows that license.
Okay, so we would be in jeopardy if we approve.
Well, in jeopardy in most things we do, you just need to understand that there's potential liability, about every decision you make. I don't know how else to answer that. This is with alcohol, and there are consequences sometimes to people drinking alcohol. And that's why usually the licenses are provided for in-site licenses where they drink the alcohol in there. And then when they walk out in an intoxicated state, that it's really hard to sue the licensee, although they've tried it.
Well, I'm gonna start. I'm gonna make a motion that we approve the application for Cindy Ayala, DBA Taqueria El Gavilan, for a caterer's license.
Which one, Patsy?
Caterer. so she can sell at parties.
So she's splitting it from these two, she's getting rid of that, just making the motion
For cater.
for cater.
Yeah. So, oh, it's $50 per quarter, okay.
Now, if she goes to an event, if she has a caterer's license, she can sell wherever she caters. But if she goes to an event and it's not catering, she can get
Special.
a special
For
license
$20.
for that.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's up to you guys, but I'm just trying to give you all the possibilities.
Go ahead.
Also, I don't know if it helps, but the wagon in Elko, they sell liquor off their wagon, and there hasn't been any issues.
Do they
that I know
sell
of.
liquor or meaning
Yeah, they
difference?
sell like micheladas and things like that. And we're mostly in the same area. If we move, it's because we're going to an event or like at the park or.
I guess you did make a motion.
I'll second.
So for discussion, so that Cindy understands, if this passes, she can only have a caterer's license, meaning it would be for a wedding or something of that nature. She would not be able to sell any alcohol out of the mobile food facility. Do you understand that?
So Art made the or Patsy made the motion, Art second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Opposed will be, so it passes with, okay.
Thank you.
That work for you?
Commissioner,
I was
I know
hoping
you're
to get
opposed,
them
but
over.
you can start your own motion on the other one, because this motion had nothing to do with the other license.
See, because there's two licenses involved
So-
here.
So you oppose the license that I think you agree with, but.
Well, I oppose just it being one, so I see what you mean. I mean, I can go ahead, I see what you mean, Ken. I will go ahead and make the motion that we approve the mobile license as well, because I do not see any difference than when they have things set up at the park and they have bars there, or they're set there at the park, set up in those areas. In my head, I don't rationalize the difference, and so I'll make the motion that the mobile also be granted, so.
I'll second it.
All right, so Kathy, for the record, Kathy made the motion, JR second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay. Nay. All right,
Fails.
so. I don't know, how's that work?
I don't wanna set a
You
precedent
showed
that's
no
gonna
that-
put this board in jeopardy, that's
Well,
the safe harbor.
here's my question on this here, for clarification, mainly for Cindy, that if she takes her mobile over and parks it at Elquist Park, she's gonna have to get the special license,
Has this,
okay?
yes.
That's that 1 or 2 day license on that.
So does he, being on the board, does he get to vote on?
Of course it does.
Oh, so you have a vote, so are you yay or nay, or what would you?
I'll go, yay on that one.
Okay. So, are we all right?
Yay on the mobile?
On the mobile?
Yes, I voted for the mobile.
Well, then that passes.
Yeah.
That's Ron's responsibility.
So, all right.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
you understand it now?
Yes, I do. Thank
Okay,
you.
So we're gonna
So as
adjourn,
long as-
Don't forget
the
you'll need
meeting
the
of the
on
Lander
sale.
County Liquor
to go to
Board
the
and
park.
reconvene the
Okay,
meeting
then
of
This
the
one
at
is
that
only-
point, I'll need a
um,
special permission
commissioners.
Yeah,
from the
this
other.
one's only for
So-
catering,
moving
go to a
forward
wedding or
to
graduation.
number 6.
This one you can sell out of your truck.
So,
It's gotta be,
Close.
gotta be sealed,
Okay,
okay?
perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
All right. discussion, only for the Lander County Public Works. You are on.
Don Prince for the record. I wrote all this down this morning. Let's start with Austin. Austin Airport, SNC's paved the road in. Rick's been out there working on brush cutting the weeds down. We're talking about getting that triangle tetra, I can't pronounce the word, thing rebuilt. We gotta talk to, David Myers about this, cause I don't know if that's allowed out there or not. There's some discussion going on about that, but we're working on that. Rick's been hauling basin out there, filling in the low spots. And the water line out there, I've been talking to Marty about that. And running water from the wells down to the airport, we're looking into that, and it's not looking very viable at this moment. Because it's such a long run and so little water being used, it'll go stagnant fast. So we're looking into options, seeing if we can make it viable right now. And I got a meeting to attend there on the 13th on that. Okay, Gilman Springs and Kingston. We finished the Cape Sill, and I'm in the process trying to get a hold of somebody at the state to talk about working on getting the approaches fixed out there. And around the mailboxes, it's really rough. So I've been trying to make a few phone calls. I haven't got a hold of anybody yet, but I'm still working on that.
And so what do you want to do on it?
The approaches where you pull in off the main highway there, that between the cattle guard and the highway, I'm trying to get that fixed, for it's a little rough there. So yeah. I went out there a week or two ago, and it's like, wow, we should have got this, but then it's
They fix it quite often.
do they really?
They fix it quite often, but nothing stays. They don't do a good enough job.
So it's a patch job probably. So, okay. In Battle Mountain, Yellow Brick Road, the sewer lines were put in. The water line I see just finally showed up, and they plan on starting it next week, probably the 13th or the 14th. The force main, we're working on getting the DOT permitting done right now, and so after that, hopefully that'll get going. The golf course pond liner, they've removed all the old pond liner and reshaped the pond and removed the old pump house out there. And it went really fast. It's really surprising to go out there and see the progress they've done out there. So hopefully here within a week or two they'll have a liner down, and we'll get the new building put up, new pump put in, and a fountain going. And yeah, I'm sure it's a month or so out still, but it's looking really good out there. And the safe routes, I talked to Frank Sullivan and Lauren Honeywell. They plan on starting around the 27th of this month on that, hopefully, if plans don't change. Okay, Austin Road and Bridge, we've just been doing some weed maintenance. As I told you before, Rick went out there and did a bunch of weed beating around the airport and uncovered the old runways that are out there and stuff. And I thought, wow, I never saw these out there. And I talked to Rick about rebuilding that thing out there and the dirt work he's been doing. The water system in Austin, we had a big leak there in front of the library. Everybody ought to know about. It was covered under warranty. SNC come in, they fixed the leak, and they was waiting to cover it up the next day, and during the night it blew apart again. But luckily they was right on hand there and got that taken care of. Battle Mountain, basically the same thing. We're doing weeds and road maintenance, and we start prepping for winter, mixing sand and salt. The water department here in Battle Mountain, we're fixing leaks in the west community. It's an ongoing battle over there. I've been working on getting an easement out here to run a new sewer line off of Mount Lewis Drive to the safety lift station. And that's about it. I probably forgot something. But
Do you have a crew doing the weeds along the roads?
I got two guys. one of my blade operators and a water truck driver. I'm gonna hire a temporary help here soon and get some more hands on it. 'Cause it was getting bad.
Yeah.
So.
Seen some pretty good
Yeah,
areas.
yeah, yeah, and if you, like, starting Monday, they started over here on Royals Ranch Road, and it was bad. But it's looking better.
I have a question.
Okay.
I had, I'm not sure if I brought this up to you last year or not, but I know like when you're going towards Reno and they know that the storm's coming in, they go out and they shoot stuff on the road. Is there any way that we can have that, or is that so
I've been talking-
feasible? Because I mean, that is so, something that can be done in parking lots and, you know, 305 and stuff ahead of time, so when we get those icy storms that it's, you know.
I've been talking to a guy, and I gotta get some numbers from him, cause you gotta get a holding tank and a sprayer system set up on your trucks and stuff, but I have been talking to a guy about this, and if I ever get some hard numbers, I'm sure it'll have to be budgeted for. But maybe next year we might have it if we get it approved in the budget.
Yeah, those
So,
numbers can be brought
yeah,
back of the
yeah.
cost for it, so at least to see if it's feasible.
Yep,
We don't take care of 305, do we?
no,
That's what I thought.
Well,
no,
and you're absolutely right, like the parking lots and
Right,
stuff like that.
yeah.
When overnight you get, you know, ice storm and then everybody's sliding around,
right.
you guys are trying
No,
to
it
get
really
on top
helps,
of
and
it when it already
we've been
turns to
kinda
ice.
messing around, we had some stuff in the yard, we've tried it before, and it seems to help, but we didn't have the right stuff, but, so,
Very good. All right,
anything else?
good.
Okay.
Thank you very much. All right. For discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove Lander County plan for provisions of indigent defense services required by the regulations implemented by the Board of Indigent Defense Services.
Commissioner? Madam Chair, and I'm speaking to the liquor board now.
Okay.
You don't have to go into the liquor board, but I'm speaking to the liquor
Okay.
board. Now, a majority of a 6-member board, a quorum, is 4.
Okay.
So neither one of those votes satisfy the quorum, because the sheriff didn't vote on the first one, which means he abstained, basically, technically. And on the second one, he did vote, which is a 3-3 vote. And the first one would be a 3-3 vote.
Okay.
So we need a 4 for a quorum on a 6-member
So
board.
does it be?
Because it's half plus 1. That's what a quorum is. So on a 5-member board, 2.5 plus 1 is 3, you know.
So what does that mean, that it failed or it failed? On
It
both of them then?
has to be brought back.
Okay, so.
If she wants to bring it back, because technically, through a technicality, it failed. Because there was no quorum.
Is she good on the first one?
She's not good on either one of them.
So you might make sure you get a hold of Rochelle as soon as possible and let her know that, so they, don't try to start to sell
So
alcohol.
we can only give her the license at this point on the mobile.
Well, you
Neither.
didn't vote, Sheriff,
On the first one.
on the first one.
Right, that was for the catering.
It didn't matter, you didn't vote. You voted on the second one.
So there was only 3 votes for it.
Okay.
Can't they
So can
open
you reopen it now? And
Yes,
Oh, okay,
you could reopen it now
okay.
and address both of them or just one of them. But a quorum needs 4 people.
Yeah.
on
So
it.
What we could do is, because right now she has the caterer.
No,
No, she doesn't. Right now she has
Technically, she
nothing.
doesn't have
So we
either
could bring
one.
it back now, or we could put it on next time and have Brian here, and we'd have all 6 of us.
Yes.
We can do that.
All right, but you
Just let her know that
right
she's
away.
gonna pull off, but we won't issue the license until after the next meeting.
So
Just
just
tell her
let
to
know
wait
right away so she
wait
doesn't
one
do
more
that. I always
agenda.
feel better doing it that way.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just had to,
No, that's, I'm good, I'd rather do it that way.
and Lakin brought that to my attention, so she caught it.
I don't remember Ron voting on anything in the past.
Sometimes he does.
That's the
Sometimes I make him. No, Arthur. There's been times I said, Ron, what's your vote?
So just make sure you get a hold of her right away so she can give her that license. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner.
Thanks, Ted.
Yeah, I'd much rather wait till we- Brian.
You're welcome.
All right, so, do I need to reread this one?
No, you already read it in,
All
she
right.
already read it in 7.
So, dealing with number 7.
We're on the plan.
Oh, my gosh.
County Commissioners, good morning. I'm making this presentation on behalf of Mr. Forgeron, who couldn't be here because he's out looking for an antelope. And the reason he was going to present it is because Mr. Forgeron put a lot of time in the development of this plan, and as well as Judge Shirley. And they did it with our Justice of the Peace here, and with, I believe the public defender was there, but they developed a plan and they structured it. Well, let me withdraw that for a moment and have you recall the presentation given to you by Mr. Forgeron a few weeks ago and his thoughts on the law that mandates this presentation of this plan. He doesn't believe it's necessary, and neither did I at the time. We believe it's not only inconvenient, it's unnecessary for Lander County, but it's a law, so we have to deal with it. So that aside, we are creating a structure for what we believe is an unnecessary mandate. And therefore, the structure that was created by Mr. Forgeron and the 2 judges was that we would keep control local. Now, we've been talking about local control all day. We've been talking about it for years. And this is structured to give Lander County local control. Now, I believe we have 2 representatives on the phone, and from the Indigent Defense Services, and Marcy and Tom, and they may want to discuss this matter afterwards, and I'll tell you why. The plan presented as your backup is the plan that was presented to me by them, and I made small, minute changes, and the changes I made brought, there were 2 aspects of it that gave control to Judge Shirley in Lovelock, and I reduced that. I took that out of there and brought the control, all the control to Lander County. So those are the only changes I made from what, and then I ran this by Denise and Jim Shirley and High Forgeron, and they all concurred. And so we are asking you to adopt the plan presented in the backup as the plan best suited for Lander County and giving us the most local control. That being said, I had the opportunity before the meeting to present you with a copy sent to me yesterday about 4:30 by Tom and Marcy from the Indigent Defense Commission, and they have red highlights, strikeouts and stuff, and they're suggesting certain modifications of the plan. Mr. Forgeron, Judge Shirley, and myself didn't think much of those suggestions or modifications, but I told them that they would have the opportunity today to address the potential modifications to the commission at this point. So if you want to open it, unless you have any questions to me.
I've got a question.
Okay.
If we didn't adopt this plan and we went with what the state wanted, that's an additional $250,000, I understand, that we would have to pay out and not have any control.
No, we're going to pay out anyway.
What?
We're going to pay out anyway, Commissioner. we're gonna be paying, we've budgeted the money, we're gonna be paying what we pay. The question is, do we wanna give Carson City control?
No.
Lovelock control, or do we want control here in Lander County?
Lander County taxes should be spent in Lander County for Lander County residents. That's how I see it. It's unfortunate that the state takes so much control away from the rural counties.
Actually, that's not quite the way it goes, is that the state is responsible, and they are supposed to be paying for it. That's where the difference is.
Yeah.
And they haven't done a good job in a lot of counties.
Right.
We stepped up, and we've done a really good job, so we want to leave it the way it is.
Exactly.
But my question is then, on the council administrator, if we pass our plan, we hire our own or identify our own council administrator.
Yes,
If we pass their plan, they choose the council administrator?
if we allow them to, we can allow Judge Shirley to appoint a council administrator out of Lovelock for his 3 counties in the 11th Judicial District. That's the part I changed in the proposed plan and made it that the county administrator, the court administrator, would be appointed, it'd be a Lander County person in Lander County. I mean, we're gonna pay for it either way.
Right, but if we don't, what I'm saying
If we
is,
go by the state's
the state
suggestion,
appoints
they
one?
would be the county administrator, their designee. It's gonna be their designee regardless.
Okay.
So if they accept our plan and they adopt it, they're saying, the law says that their designee is the person we hire.
Okay.
But their designee could be located in Lander County, in Lovelock, or in Carson City. So it would be, it's the commission or its designee is the language, the pertinent language.
Got it.
So we are asking that it be their designee, which is located in Lander County, appointed by Lander County, paid for by Lander County, and controlled by Lander County. So that's our plan, and that's why we're suggesting it, and I can open the floor to Marcy and Tom if,
I have
unless.
a question.
Okay, I'm sorry, Commissioner.
So what we're adopting today is this, aside from, without these changes in it?
Yes.
Correct?
I'm recommending the adoption of what's in your backup. Now, I'd like you, if you choose to adopt that, I'm asking for the discretion, the authority to make small changes in the boilerplate language of this, because when it was first set up and prepared, it was before some of the regulations went into effect. Now that the regulations went into effect, because some of their suggestions or modifications are based on the change to regulations. So I want you to adopt the structure, which is local control of the plan, and allow me to make small regulatory changes in the boilerplate of the language.
When this committee was created and meeting, this indigent committee, my understanding was that they were going to let the counties keep their control that wanted to.
Well, we're about to find out.
And this is how we find out, by submitting our own plan.
Yes.
Got it. Thank you.
All right, so who do we have on the line?
You have Tom and you have.
All right.
Commissioners, this is Thomas Quarles with the Department of Indigent Defense. Marcy Reed, our director, is also on the line. I'm happy to answer any questions or to kind of give you an overview that I think will help dispel some of the misinformation out there about the plans and what we're doing. With your permission.
Go ahead.
So, the Department of Indigent Defense and the regulations and statute that control this process, I just think there's a lot of misinformation about it. The department has no interest or design in taking local control away from Lander County. We We applaud all of the efforts that you're making. And we've been on the line all morning listening to the library stuff and all the other things, and I think you guys are doing a great job. This plan is no different, and its design is to provide standardized, statewide indigent defense systems and plans county for county. And one of the things that it addresses is independence from the judiciary. And Mr. Herrera already addressed that, and I applaud his efforts in doing what's best for Lander County there, as opposed to, what a judge that also works in other counties wants to do. And part of the idea is to just put instant defense on level footing with prosecution as far as the influence and control that the judiciary has over the process. And so, as I understand it from reading this plan and from speaking with Ted, there's basically a 3-tier indigent defense system in this plan, and there's a main contracted public defender, and then the second tier is an alternate or conflict public defender's office that's also contracted, and then there's a provision for panel attorneys, and I'm unclear whether those are contracted or not. But where the one area in which the council administrator comes into play is once we at least go through those first 2 tiers, and even the third tier if they're contracted, then there needs to be a system for assigning conflict counsel. And that system needs to be outside the judiciary. And so, DIDS had offered for no money whatsoever to Lander County to provide, to be the person who assigns counsel in the rare event, from what I understand, when we get to a third or fourth tier conflict. Because in my discussions with Ted, that happens almost never. I mean, I don't know if that happens a half a dozen times a year, maybe it does, maybe it's more. But regardless, we don't have a dog in that fight. We're not attached to whether Lander County hires someone to do that or not, as long as it just meets the requirements of independence from the judiciary. And so, there's a number of things set out that have to be in the plan, like initial appearance of counsel, like standards for counsel, whether they're contracted or conflict, those kinds of things. And so, and then there's also, the last thing that I'll address is there's a misconception about funding and whether, there's all these unfunded mandates or whether the state's going to cost the county a lot of money. The way this is set up is that based upon previous numbers that we got from Lander County, our department set a maximum contribution that the county would have to pay for indigent defense based upon what it had paid in the past. And the way the formula works is that everything that the county spends over that, under the maximum contribution formula, we can go back to the legislature and request money for reimbursement to the county. The state pays anything over what the county used to pay. So that's how the system is set up. Marcy's been here since the beginning, and Marcy can probably answer more detailed questions than I can, but I'm happy, and Marcy's happy to address any other concerns that I have missed.
Commissioners, this is Marcy. If I could also add a couple of items.
Yes, please.
As Tom told you, there is the maximum contribution formula that's based on what Lander County spent on average for fiscal year 18 and 19. That amount, as reported, was $99,581.96. We asked Lander County, how much do you believe that you will be spending this fiscal year on indigent defense? And we were informed $120,500. Based upon that information, when we built our budget, we requested in our request from the legislature around $20,918.04 for Lander County's needs. That money at this point is in the Finance Committee, and once Lander County goes over their maximum contribution, we can request those funds to reimburse Lander County. As you see from the plan now, the proposal has greatly increased from the original estimate of $120,000 to $250,000. I don't have specifics as to why the increase is so much, but it appears that with each of the tiers, $130,000 was set aside for the public defender. I don't know if that's to pay the public defender in full, or if that's to set aside some expert and investigator fees for that person. The conflict public defender, the plan provides $50,000 set aside, and it's unclear if that's what their payment is, or if that includes experts and investigators. And then the second tier public defenders is $25,000, and that would be the same question. There is that council administrator where it appears $20,000 is being requested for that, and like we said, our department could fulfill that role at no cost to Lander County. And basically what would happen is the court would notify us when there's a conflict, and we could go down the list of approved attorneys and call them on Lander County's behalf. And these would be attorneys that the Board of Commissioners could review and limit from the approved list. And once an attorney agreed to take the case, would fill out the appropriate paperwork and give it to the court. So we could easily fulfill that role. The importance of creating separation from the judiciary is to provide the same oversight for the public defender as the prosecutor has. When the prosecutor needs money for a case, he doesn't need to go to the judge to ask, may I have money for this certain item? Instead, it's built into his budget. And that's what we're encouraging for public defenders. Public defenders shouldn't have to go in front of a judge, explain the theory of the case, and ask for those fees to be approved or denied. And with the change in the law of AB 480, the law has changed so that request could be either be built into their budget or it could be our department or our designee. So those are some items that I'd like to point out with the approval of the fees, because there are some areas where the court wants it to come back to them, but the prosecutor doesn't have to send anything to the court as to who they're hiring for their experts. There are also statements in there of the selection of the conflict attorneys should go back to the judge for the judge to review and make the ultimate determination if that's the appropriate choice. But that doesn't happen for a prosecutor. If a prosecutor has a conflict, a prosecutor contacts another office and asks them, will you appear as a special prosecutor? And there's no request for the judge to be able to approve that. So again, we're trying to make consistency in separation from the judiciary. We want to make sure that the public defenders meet or have the items that they need to fully defend individuals in Lander County that are charged with a crime. And ultimately, we want to have a step-by-step process. So if a person comes in and has a question as to how public defense works in Lander County, maybe they have someone that's charged with a crime and they want to understand the system, or maybe they themselves are interested in providing appointed counsel work, then they can pull the plan and learn how it works in Lander County. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer questions.
I have questions.
I've got a question. Why is the state offering Lander County a solution when we don't have a problem with this? We've never had a problem with representation, and when you say standardized representation, wow. there's no differences between Clark County, Washoe County, and the rurals?
So
Because of the lawsuits.
So, like currently, for example, if, so I'm making sure I'm understanding this correctly, you go into a court and your defendant is indigent, Shirley says, you need an attorney, and he says, yes, and then he appoints attorney counsel, correct? So, how it is now is this list of attorneys is generated by the state, where doing it ourselves, we have our own list of attorneys that the judge goes for. I mean, am I correct in that or not?
Let me briefly explain
Okay.
to you. Our plan is that the public defender is by contract with Kai. He's our public defender. He would be appointed to all cases.
Okay.
If he has a conflict, he would say, I have a conflict of interest. It would go to our tier 1 attorney.
Okay.
Tier 1 would be the first conflict. We would have a contract with another attorney. For instance, Dave Lockey and Sherman Farley. And the contract would say something to that you promise, you agree to represent any direct first level conflicts in return for so much money an hour. In other words, we won't be giving them any money until they work for it, but nevertheless, it's a contract. So we're allowed to do that. And then if he has a conflict, or if there is 2 conflicts, in other words, let's say there were 3 defendants together that were charged with this, that were at the same time, same place, same charge, or similar charges. The public defender would take the first one. First tier conflict contractor would take the second one, and then the second tier public defender contractor, who we'd have a contract with under the same terms, would take the third one. And what Tom was talking about was if there is 4, let's say there were 4 people involved in that, then it would go, we don't have a third tier. Our third tier is a list of approved attorneys, and our court administrator, which would be here in Lander County. Thank you very much, Carson, for offering. But the court administrator here in Lander County would then go through the list according to the rules and regulations set forth by the Honorable Commission that is speaking to you, and they would appoint that attorney off that list.
And that's what they're doing now, because Justice Court does, that's how Justice Court, and the only reason I know is because I've been involved with Denise explaining that to me.
But this, we would have 3 contracts. One of them would be the public defender, and the second, third one would be conflicts. And we would not pay them. It would not cost them unless they are
utilized.
Just like now, it doesn't cost us for conflicts unless they're used, unless they're appointed. We've been paying in the judge's budget. Matter of fact, we paid for this year in the district court judge's budget for the cost of these people. So this year, we're paying it twice, just so you know. We have developed our own budget to comply with the rules and regulations set forth by this commission and by the legislature, and we put it in Judge Shirley's budget already because he requested it. So we paid it twice. So hopefully Judge Shirley will return that at the end of the year during his reconciliation, because he's done that.
Okay, I understand, I just want to make sure that I was understanding it right, okay. All right.
But that's where Tom has offered, well, if there's another conflict, we'd be happy to do that. But if we have our own court administrator, no, we don't need that.
Okay.
With local services.
Okay.
Public comment time?
Okay.
I just want to stress I am here just as a private citizen. Jenny Martin, for the record. I'm here just as a private citizen. Jenny Martin, for the record. I just wanted to clarify, because this plan does create another position which would go under the county manager. They would oversee it, but I want to clarify what Mr. Herrera is saying. It's not a court administrator. It'd be a council administrator. So that's all that I wanted to say. It's council administrator. In the paperwork, it says council administrator. Mr. Herrera keeps referring to it as court administrator. Yeah, there's big difference there.
Council administrator.
And that's what we're doing now, though, and we have been doing.
We haven't had a problem.
We would be having a third party as a council administrator. And that council administrator would be doing certain functions as required by our plan if it's adopted. And to approve, if a public defender or conflict public defender wanted, the services of an investigator, they make application instead of to the court, they'd still make it to, so no matter what Marcy said, they'd be making application to someone out of the budget that we have made. They don't automatically get the money for anything they want. They'd still say, well, we want so much money out of our budget for private investigator. And the council administrator would say, okay. Or if they were doing it from Carson City, they'd still ask them, and they'd take it out of the budget we made. So
It's the same, and it's unfunded, so we're funding it regardless.
we're funding it regardless.
That we're
of
paying
what
for it regardless if we're doing it or they're doing it.
Right.
It's the same. That's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure I had that clarity.
So,
I'm ready to make a motion.
was it my understanding that she actually asked the question about the difference in our budgets when we said 130,000 or 250,000, and they didn't understand the difference?
I don't understand. I think-
Okay, because 130,000 was our cost for the public defender, right?
she's making-
I can clarify that.
Because most of these costs in this are potential costs.
Right.
130,000 is a fixed cost.
But didn't she question it? She said that she didn't understand why we would sent two?
I think she was suggesting why to not adopt our plan because we've increased the amount of money. Now, this is the amount of money we budgeted. We may potentially need it. But we do that all the time. We did that before this law went into it.
Right, but I mean, my understanding was she didn't
I
understand
can
the
clarify
difference.
that
Was
question.
Okay, yeah, just one second, please.
I think she understood quite clearly.
Okay.
Okay, so go ahead, please.
Thomas Quells, again, from DIDS. And it wasn't questioning the plan, it wasn't a recommendation not to adopt the plan because of the amount. It was a clarification that the 130,000 figure was what Lander County originally reported to us as their projected indigent defense cost for this coming fiscal year. And then when the plan was written, that cost is increased to $250,000. So the $130,000 was what we originally reported, and now it is $250,000. So we were simply, this was not a cost that we put on the county, and this was also not the cost that the county originally reported to our department that was their projected spending for this plan. That was the only statement. It wasn't a recommendation to adopt or not adopt. It wasn't even saying that the $250,000 wasn't necessary. It was simply a statement of the difference in previous reporting from Lander County to what's being set forth in this plan. So I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay, because when you made the statement, I thought you didn't understand why we sent 130 the first time and 250 the second. And I think there must have been a communication error because 130 is the public defender's office. And if that's what you asked for, that's what you got. But then when we did our plan, we included the conflict public defender, the second tier, panel attorneys, etc. So the total cost of the whole plan was 250, and that's where
I understand, but the original request.
That's what we're looking for. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
The original request was for the entire cost for indigent defense for the county. So we have been asking to work with Lander County for quite some months now and to have these discussions before today. We requested to be put on the agenda for this commission meeting 2 different times, and it was dropped from the agenda 2 different times. So we've tried very hard to educate and to work with Lander County to make this process as smooth as possible. And we're still here and available to do that.
Commissioners, they put agenda requests in, we put them on the agenda, and they failed to show up.
Okay.
End of story.
If this is Commissioner Clark, if this was really that important, you two would be right here. That's how I see it. I'm ready to make a motion. I make a motion.
If I may, we did submit 2 agenda requests.
Make a motion.
No, the motion.
Okay, he has started his motion, all right?
I want to make a motion that we accept, we approve the Lander County plan for provision of indigent defense services required by the regulations implemented by the Board of Indigent Defense Services.
Submitted by myself.
Right, committed by our local DA.
That's part of your backup.
Right, it's in the backup.
Counselor, I'd like that motion to include small ministerial changes to
The boiler.
And we will
The
grant,
Boilerplate issues.
we'll grant the DA permission to make some boilerplate.
ministerial changes to satisfy the regulations that have
Right,
been
minimum
just
minimum
adopted.
changes to satisfy the regulations because they roll out.
So, a second. So something, I want to say this real quick, so the audience understands as far as the budgetarial thing. There's things that come up, that they have to get special investigators, they have to seek some, like we have to send somebody to mental health to find out if they're suitable to, help themselves in their own trial, and those things are very pricey. So I think when we were setting the budget, I don't think that was set into, this is how much we're gonna pay attorneys. These are things that are built in because there are several of them who need mental health evaluations before they go to trial. There's other forensic, audits that have to be done that are very expensive. And so that $250,000 doesn't mean that we're spending that on attorneys. Those go for those kind of fees. So I wanted to make sure anybody in the audience who didn't understand where that money difference is, that's what that is. And so we built that into the big budget to make sure we had money to pay for those things, to make sure they had accurate and fair defenses.
Prospectively, they're
Yes,
prospective
yes.
costs.
So-
We were never asked what our prospective costs were by the commission.
So, yeah. So I
We
wanted
were
to-
asked what our actual costs are.
So I wanted to make sure that was clear. So Art made the motion, JR second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now, we have to adopt this plan every single year and send it in, is that my understanding?
Probably.
Because in the last area, it does say that, I'm going,
Yeah.
every year we have to do this plan. This plan shall become effective when approved. The plan shall be submitted by May 1st of each year.
Yes.
So we have to
Yes.
either send the same plan or revise it or whatever. But every year it goes to this board,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Not our board, their board.
Absolutely.
Indigent Defense Board.
So are
Okay.
we good?
Aye.
Passed and
We're
move
good.
forward. All
We're
right.
good. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, so, for discussion and possible action to allow Lander County clerks to have constructive custody of the Lander County electric voting machines with conditions set by the commissioners. These conditions possibly include, but are not limited to, first seeking and then granting permission by the county commissioners prior to anyone or any agency from accessing the machines, or to take another course of action pursuant to 293B.115. Okay. So like Bert, I believe, if I'm correct in this, like Bert had said earlier, this is basically saying it stays status quo. The only big difference is that if anybody wants to come in and view those machines or try to audit the machines, it has to come in front of the county commissioners, correct?
Yes, let me briefly explain.
Sure, we may understand.
Bert brought this up earlier, but what NRS 293B.115 states is that if the governing body, which is your body, your honorable board, purchases electronic voting machines, then when they are not in use, they shall, it says shall, that's a mandatory word, be put in possession, in the custody of the controlling body, which is the county commissioners. So that's what the statute says. It's plain language. I've given you a copy of it. It speaks plainly. It's not ambiguous. So the problem, though, comes from the county clerk. Sadie, in this instance, has a mandate where she has to legally keep the data for 22 months after an election. Now, the data is on the electronic machines. So the question is, can it be separated? Yes, if they choose to, but they choose not to. The county clerk chooses not to. So this suggestion is put by Bert and I to you. This is one way to solve the problem instead of going to court and add the machines when she doesn't want to, for whatever reason, she doesn't want to move the data. That's up to her. I'm not condemning it. I'm just saying she chooses not to remove the data from the machine.
What is feedback from something?
So, yeah. Well, I'm gonna bring up Dominion in a second.
Okay, so my
Let's
question is, it says in the statute,
It's the bridge line, it's not
It's the
here.
bridge line.
So then Dominion called me,
Oh,
the Dominion called me, the attorney for Dominion, and he said, well, there's another problem, is we own the software. So we don't like people looking at the machines because they have access to our software. And the Secretary of State and Sadie saying, well, our data's on there and we don't want to separate it. And then you have your legal duty to make sure that no one messes or looks at those machines. So a reasonable approach to all three interests would be to grant the clerk Sadie the constructive custody and have her keep them under lock and key. And before anyone, including Dominion or the Secretary of State or any other body, looks at your machines, the ones that are in your custody, then you would get authority from you. That seems to be the reasonable approach, and that's what we're suggesting.
The whole issue for me is that each one of us have to sign the certification under penalty of a felony, but yet we don't have any representation when an agency comes in and does a physical audit. No, that's not right.
well, and that's where it would correct that issue, that the bottom line, without anybody being able to come in and inspect those machines, that it come before the commission first.
That should have been done before this
And we ran this
happened.
by General Ford, the Attorney General, I was on the phone with. And he was representing the Secretary of State, and he said, well, I'll tell my client that it seemed a reasonable approach. The attorney for Dominion out of Denver told me that he thought it was a reasonable approach. So I haven't heard anyone say it's not a reasonable approach, so.
And I think it's reasonable, because I truly don't wanna have the responsibility of those machines. I just don't. I would rather they be left where they're at, and if anybody wants to view them, that it goes to the proper channels and it comes in front of us, and that they be left where they're at, cause I
Because
certainly don't
you
want.
have a legal obligation, it's in your you have legal custody of those machines.
okay, so let me ask you a question on that then, because the statute actually says, when the systems and devices are not in use at an election, the board, council, or governing body, that's us, shall take custody of them and of the furniture and equipment of the polling place. Okay, so with that, our motion would say, we are giving custody to our county clerk.
Constructive custody.
We are giving
You
constructive,
have legal custody.
okay, We are,
You already given
but that's
her-
how we word it,
Yes.
constructive custody
Constructive custody.
to our clerk
to
of
the
court
clerk for those things.
for the systems and devices of the
And-
mechanical
and the
recording devices.
So my understanding of the reason why the clerk's office does not want to give over, so for example, for the crowd, it's like having your computer and you have your hard drive under your desk, right? We're asking for the screen. We aren't asking for the hard drive. That's the separation between the machines, just for clarification. But they're under contract with Dominion, and in talking to Richard, Richard says, yes, the data can be separated. That's not a problem. However, Dominion, it might violate their contract, which we have not seen. And that's why we're leaving all of them as one. And that's where the concern lies, is now you have your monitor and you have all in the same location. And if it's not under lock and key, it does fall, the burden falls on this board.
But legally, we have to meet and give her constructive custody.
Right.
Because
And
we're
make
the
sure that
ones
it's under lock
responsible.
and key
Yep.
because-
Okay.
Because
Yes.
you'll be liable for it if anybody,
Okay.
if they're damaged.
Very
Got it.
simple.
And when we find the contract from Dominion, so we can, between Lander County and Dominion, we just can't find it.
All right, well,
So
And
if we would've
we'll
had-
get that, we'll bring that in front of you too.
We should have had an agenda item addressing this before the feds came in at Homeland because it was an anomaly for Homeland Security to come to Lander County to do a physical audit. That's what especially upset me, that we didn't even know that we were gonna have the machines looked at, and we didn't have any representation there, none. We don't know what has happened to those machines.
I don't know if they were doing an audit. I know that they were trying to,
They were trying to hack.
they were trying to hack the machines. And apparently Sadie says that they do this, we have a contract with them, that's gonna be brought in front of you. Sadie says they do it from Washington every year. But this is the first year they came here physically to do it, and we didn't understand that, and she didn't understand that, and no one understands that.
and so for a little bit more clarification, what they mean by hacking, everybody, I wanna make sure, so they wanna see if their machines are hackable, because they wanna see how safe they are. Okay,
They wanna
so
make sure
this-
they're
this-
secure.
Yes, for the security. This happened months ago, that this happened, so I want people to understand this is not what happened in the last month. This happened a handful of months ago. And normally they try to hack them from Washington DC to see if they can get into the election, these computers. And what they did this time is they came here and tried to hack them. And so it caught everybody off guard. Nobody understood that ever even went on. So I think that the ball started rolling and questions started being asked from that. But to get back on point, but I wanted to make sure people understood that first, that this started a little ways back. But I think that, to get back and deal with this.
Well, yeah, but the concern,
Yeah, you may.
the concern was that you had legal custody of the machines, Sadie has legal custody of the data, and the third party was coming in, and
Had access to both.
it made us,
Yes.
it made us
Okay.
uncomfortable.
Okay.
Richard Green, for the record. Just to clear up a couple things, DHS didn't come in and test those machines. They tested our workstations. They didn't test the ICX at all.
Okay.
They didn't go in there they tried to hack like our email. They tried to hack our server to make sure it was up to spec.
Okay.
And then anything that they found, they would act like a hacker, and they would try to find weaknesses within my system, and then report back to us, say, hey, you need to fix this and this and this. But they had nothing to do with those ICX machines, because we can't let anybody touch those that are not within the scope of the chain of custody.
Bertram,
Yes, sir.
where were the machines when they were in there, in Sadie's office?
They were locked up in,
They weren't locked, there was an open door with them sitting there.
they were in an open door. They had an open door to the break room, which they were sitting in. The ICX machines were in the other room.
So now do these, so I know, cause I haven't looked, so these voting machines, they're always left under lock and key?
Yes.
There's a room that they say in separately?
Yes.
Okay, so,
there's a couple different components they have. They have the one where, you know, the voter checks in, and then they get a voter card, and then they have another machine. And those machines are usually kept together in lock and key. And then there's other printers and other apparatus that we don't keep in the same room, but there's no data that is stored on those.
All right.
And then what was the other thing?
But still, there's no reason for the commission not to have representation when these machines are in question, or they're trying to be hacked, or whatever. Because
everybody should know what's going on with these things.
everybody should know, especially us, and we were in the dark.
Well, I came in just before these guys started this, and what happened is, but the year before, it came before you guys. I don't know if it was you guys particularly, but we did read where it was passed, that they come in, but they didn't do it in 2020 because of COVID. And they didn't show up at all. They just did a remote. So they tried to get into the website and try to do other things. This is the first time, I believe, in a few years that they've actually been on site to try to do it.
I have a question.
Yes, sir?
There's a rumor circulating around Battle Mountain that the county was 92 votes over on the count versus registered voters. Is that true?
No, it's
Okay.
not even close to being right.
Well, I'm happy about that.
No. The clerk's office, they do like a triple redundancy. Sadie does a time-consuming job of making sure of things happen in a lot of different ways. She counts people coming in, going out. She counts actual bodies that show up and what's compared on the machine. And then she makes the actual poll workers keep another tally on individual machines that came from an individual side of that. So at first I thought it was like, this is complete redundancy, but it wasn't. Now seeing how it's gotten to this point, now I know why she did it that way, because it might come to questions. And if you have questions, you better have answers, and she has them. So that's why it was done that way.
So I think that what caused.
I believe Sadie's on the line.
Okay. Sadie, you online?
Can you hear me? Okay, this is Sadie Sullivan, Lander County.
All right, go ahead.
Hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mute everybody else.
Hold on for us.
Muted. Unmuted.
All right, go ahead, Sadie, please.
Oh, sorry, I was talking. I need to start all over.
Yeah, because we couldn't hear you, sorry.
Okay, so as far as the data that is on those voting machines, there's 26 of them, and you would have to physically remove the hard drive. So when it was stated that I did not want to do that, this is where we'd be getting into the machines. We need to have Richard or IT person physically would have to remove the hard drive from those voting machines. Am I correct, Richard?
The data have to be removed physically to be cloned from there and then put back onto the actual device. I don't believe there's a method of extraction externally on the device at all. I don't think they've built in so many redundancies within there. You're actually correct, but it would have to be pulled from there and then copied from there, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make that a clarification with your IT knowledge. Everybody has an understanding. It's not stuff that can just be done in a quick manner.
No, I know.
So also with the statute 293B.115, it states the board, the governing body, or the council. And within that, I'm elected and the board is elected, and so we are equal in that. And so I just wanted to state that I have not, pardon me?
We haven't said
I have not ever gone to an elected official and have told them how to do their job, and I was elected as the clerk to be over the elections. And so that statute there is, you guys are elected, I'm elected, and so to me there is a line there that I was voted in to do the job. Also, the cybersecurity. Richard touched base with you on that. They did not test those machines. I want that clear for the record as well.
Okay.
And there was a couple other comments that that were stated. And my comment back at this time is there's legal processes. Audits can be done, but there is legal steps to follow through on those auditing purposes. And I do not have a problem as long as each step legally is followed to be able to do the right thing and the legal thing.
Okay, all right. So, all right, Sadie,
I'll make a motion.
I have a question first. I still have a question. Now, if just in the case that you were able to separate the information off, Richard, you were able to separate the information off of the hard drives or whatever, is that stuff reusable, or do we have to purchase all new equipment if we are in there messing around asking for stuff to be taken off? Does anything have to be replaced, or can that stuff still be used for voting?
Once it's number one, if the machines are opened, they lose their certification. If anybody touches them that is not in the chain of custody, they're decertified. So they won't be able to be used again. They won't be able to be used as evidence. They won't be used as anything. They're just junk now, because the validity of that, it has to be followed with the chain of custody. Now, if you broke the chain of custody and got information that it was completely, everything was as everybody's worst fear, you still couldn't use it. You have to use the chain of custody. You have to use all these freaking steps that are set in motion to make sure that everything's done right. Now, hypothetically, if we were to take the information off of there, we'd still have to have the encryption code, and it's 256-bit encryption. So if you have the data, you still have to have it de-encrypted. And the one that holds that is the manufacturer of this device.
Okay.
Richard, if a machine is opened by a voter, does that negate the machine?
Absolutely.
Because we had that happen last year.
I believe, yes, it was. And I don't know if it was open, but it was breached.
Tampered with.
Yeah, and I believe that one was pulled just because of that.
Okay.
And it was all bad news for everybody.
Okay. So, all right, now we have, thank you. Yes, I'm ready for a motion.
I will make a motion that we give our county clerk constructive custody of Lander County's electronic voting machines with the conditions, but not limited to, anyone seeking that may be granted permission by the county commissioners prior to anyone or any agency from accessing the machines.
All right.
I'll second that.
All right, so Pat's made the motion, Art second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, so we're done. So did you want to break for lunch?
I have a question real quick if I'm still.
Go ahead.
For this item, sorry about that. I had my phone on mute. I didn't realize. My question is so legally, this would be for Ted. So now, are you?
Oh, she did.
Am I needing to do?
So let's do this.
Unless you open it up again.
We're moving on.
It's just a quick question.
Okay.
Ted?
We're not in the item unless she opens it up, say.
Okay, sorry, I can't hear you.
Give it a second, please, all right? If it's a legal question, what I think that I would like you to do, if you're asking for a legal opinion or a legal question, what I'd like you to do, since this has already been voted on, I'd like you to actually do it, written, in writing to Ted.
Okay, I feel that. Okay, I do feel this is some commissioners need to know stuff. I'll just ask it real quick, and then you guys can decide from there.
Well, it's been done. Oh my God, this is driving me crazy. If what she can.
All he's saying is open the item.
I'm gonna reopen the item. Okay, Sadie, hang on. I'm just gonna reopen for your question on number 8.
Okay,
so go
sorry
ahead.
for the delay.
Go ahead.
Okay, my question is So when it comes time for pre-lap and to go program or maintenance on the machines, am I required to fill out an agenda request for the board for you guys to say yes or no that I can do my job? So my question is the primary election will be coming up and we will program them in May. And so do I have to do an agenda request and say, can I please do my job and do my pre-lap? And does that have to come before the board? So I have to come to you and say, must I, or board, may I do my pre-lap? So that's what my question is each time something arises, do I have to do an agenda request and bring forward the board to have permission to even do my job?
I'm gonna add to that. I would say, my question also is anything other than the scope of her job, I would think that she would have to ask for permission. I'm thinking, and when I'm looking at this, I'm looking at anybody from outside other than her and her,
Staff.
IT people, is where you get the understanding and the permission. Her doing her job is her doing her job, and we shouldn't be, I didn't think that was what it was about.
Well, she's talking about her doing her job months from now. It's my understanding that the county manager is going to bring more issues that will become in front of this board that will answer these questions.
Okay.
Right now, if she had to do her job next week, of course she'd have access to it, but they're not in use right now.
They absolutely are in use because the DA's still on there.
That's not legally in use.
Okay.
That's my legal opinion.
All right.
Okay, so we're looking at it like a parent and a child, and we're saying, our children are in your office, and that's fine. You can feed them lunch, you can blah, 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 all
Absolutely.
that. But if you're going to do something with that child, then you're gonna have to come to the parent. And those machines are ours, so therefore, if it isn't within your working scope of the day, someone outside, it's gonna have to come on the agenda.
So it's outside the scope of your job and doing the elections for viewing of anyone else, that's where you would, at this point, have to ask for written permission.
This was agendized for the purpose of immediacy, to solve a problem. It's my understanding that these issues could be raised again to develop a policy that will satisfy Sadie's question in the future. But we needed something immediately because we had all these interests competing and fighting each other, and we wanted to put that aside so that we can heal and come together as a county and continue to do our jobs, including Sadie doing her job.
Sadie, so at this point, that policy will be brought forward, so you're able to do your job and all those your interests brought forward. So this is just for right now to get this issue solved at this current time, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, so closing that, going back out, so go to lunch and come back at. So we're gonna.
Always 15 minutes from the last meeting.
I know, so we're gonna reconvene at 1:15.
This conference is no longer being recorded. Muted.
You ready? All right, call the meeting back to order. We'll go ahead and go on to number 9. Here's my glasses. All right, for discussion and possible action to the presentation by Aaron Martinez, DBA A&M Engineering, covering the Battle Mountain West Community Project. More specifically, to discuss the utilities to be replaced and to request the Commission's direction on how to proceed with specific utility and infrastructure upgrades as it relates to communications. You are on.
Don Prince, Public Works, with Aaron Martinez here with A&M Engineering.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Aaron Martinez, AIM Engineering for the record. The item in front of you today is an existing project that's currently going on, which is the Battle Mountain West Community Project. I've provided you an exhibit that shows you the entire project, which is encompassed into 4 phases. Phase 1 is kind of starting on the far northerly end and working south. The reason for that is primarily for sewer infrastructure. Overall, the project is designed to replace sewer and water infrastructure underneath the roadways. And in doing so, we would then, on the surface infrastructure, replace the roads themselves and upgrade the sidewalks to meet the ADA compliance component. Again, the reason we're starting from the northerly end and working south is so that we can tie into the existing sewer infrastructure and then perpetuate our work to the south. The item in front of you today is being brought forward because typically under most projects we do not install communication lines such as fiber optic conduits, things like that. And so the Public Works Director and the County Manager's Office wanted to bring this item in front of you as a decision that needed to be made as to whether the county should or should not install the fiber optic or conduit for the fiber optic. I'll give you a little background. In other municipalities, what we've been doing is when we're coming in to replace all the roadway and utility infrastructure, we don't want to get back under that roadway 5 years later. So we try to kind of have some forethought and try to put as much of that infrastructure in as possible so that we can maintain our roads' integrity and obviously maintain that investment. Obviously, those decisions come with costs. I've provided you an engineer's estimate of the cost increase if you did choose to install fiber optic conduit, and it's in upwards of $600,000 total. I would like to caution you that these prices are based on the inflating costs of those utilities. So I would say in normal circumstances, it'd probably be half that price, but unfortunately prices seem to be climbing. So again, the item in front of you today is should we or should we not install conduit underneath the roadways in phases 1 through 4, which is basically impacting the entire west side of 305 or Broad Street. That conduit we typically do, and we'll put like two 2-inch conduits under the ground, and they'll just run to respective pole boxes throughout the entire community. At that point, the commission can lease those lines out to fiber optic companies that then pay the county to utilize those lines, and then they pull their fiber through. So that's typically how it goes. Is most municipalities will drop in the conduit infrastructure. It's just basically blank pipe, and then hoping that you can provide your residents with private companies to come in, do line agreements with the county, and then they can provide those residents with those communication abilities like fiber optic. I'm seeing a few blank stares. Have you guys, did I confuse anyone?
No.
We don't have anything in the budget on this, right? We have our phase, but we don't have the fiber optic, right?
No, so we budgeted, I guess this is probably better for Donnie to answer. We budget for a project that doesn't include this. However, I'm not sure if the budget that is in that project would cover this or not. That would be.
And it would not. This would probably be something that you would have to expand your budget on. Under the current budget allocation for this project, this infrastructure was not accounted for. So this would be something in addition if you wanted to do that.
And this would this be the full total of all of our projects, or just
This
the
would
phase
just be
one?
the West Community phase 1 through 4.
Just phase 1?
Through 4.
Just that small little part up there?
No, phase 1 through 4 would be all the phases.
Oh, it is all 4 phases.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And the
Okay.
reason it's all the entire all encompassing is the way that we're designing it is we're designing the entire project, and then we will place phase 1 out to bid, then phase 2 out to bid.
Right.
And the reason we're doing that is from an engineering standpoint, I need to be able to see all the project and design it as one kind of monolithic project to then break it into phases.
Then we don't need to come up with this kind of money, because only when we do phase 1 do we have to come up with the money for the fiber optic for phase 1.
That's correct. That is correct.
Okay.
But overall, your decision would be affecting phase 1 through 4 ultimately. But yes, initially your cost would only need to fund phase 1 technically. And that project has not gone out to bid. It's still in the design phase. It's nearing completion, which is kind of why we're in front of you today, to kind of get some of these final caveats. explained and outlined before we proceed with bidding purposes.
Okay, thank you.
So just so, and maybe Aaron can touch on this to clarify, the reason why I thought it was appropriate to bring in front of the board is because he had discussed further in depth with me and Donnie about companies coming in and actually paying for that to be installed within our right of way, and it not costing us anything, but then they use that as their, remedy to get to people and customers. Or the county doing it and doing it on our side, and there's a variety pack of options there, and maybe he can touch on that for you guys. I figured it's a good discussion for you guys to make a decision on.
So in the long run, we may or may not pay for it going in, but even if we do, we'll certainly get it back over the period of time with the fiber optic people leasing, right?
Yeah, I'll touch on that. Thank you. So to answer your first question, the return on the investment, I'm not sure a Wall Street man would say, hey, this is a great return on your investment.
Hey Aaron, is Austin on the line?
Austin, are you on?
We're here.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure, sorry.
So again, I don't want to create any fallacies here. The return on the investment, A, it's unknown. B, I wouldn't think that a Wall Street guy would say, yeah, that's where I'd put my money. But it is a benefit for the community, and you do receive some dividends from that. As Mr. Ramos was talking about, there is kind of a few ways that we can approach this. One, the county installs the blank conduit, and then you put line agreements out with a private contractor to pull his fiber through and connect it to the residents. Another way to approach it is we, in our bid package, we state that the submitting contractors are required to link up with a company that would be able to perform that, and they actually install it under their purview of the contract. And whether it would cost us more or less in the project is unknown because it's kind of outside of our realm at that point. But typically how it goes is the fiber optic companies would typically love to piggyback on a project like that, because then they'll install their line, they'll own the line, and then they can maintain it, one, and two, then they reap all the benefits of it's their line, they can provide it to whichever customers they'd like, and so you kind of lose control if you start to allow the contractor to navigate those contractual aspects of it, and you maintain more control if it's your line and you pay for it installed. So I hope that clears those two avenues up for you.
Okay, your other request was for replacing some of the sewer and water lines that are already there?
So that is technically not on a request from us today. That is a decision that's already been made in previous commission actions. This project overall is to replace the sewer and the water infrastructure. Currently, that is the project scope. And what we're looking for today is, do you want to add the fiber optic conduit
Okay, because that
to
isn't,
that scope?
all right, okay. It says more specifically to discuss the utilities to be replaced.
Right, as it relates to communications.
So,
That would be the internet fiber optic conduit.
oh,
that we're
just that?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
But yes, I'm happy to answer any questions on the other utilities. Again, they're all being replaced. We've contacted NV Energy and Southwest Gas, and we're gonna be coordinating with them in hopes that they'll also replace their infrastructure underneath the roadway also. So I think the only thing that we were missing from our end, from an engineering standpoint, again, is, okay, what utility are we not addressing? And the only one we currently are not is the communications. And that's what we're here for in front of you today, is to see if the commission would like to proceed with adding the blank conduit as part of our primary contract, or we can have the contractor delegate that component under his purview. My recommendation to you would be to do as we've done in other municipalities, where we handle the fiber optic conduit blank pipe, and then you then do line agreements with private companies as you see fit to occupy that line and then supply the fiber optic to your community.
Well, if we maintain the authority and put it in our, the cost, then that means that we have control over what fiber optic company.
That's correct.
Where if the fiber optic company comes in and puts it in for us through our contractor, then they can charge anything they wanna charge?
Absolutely, and maybe
Okay.
not supply.
So
certain-
that way we can take bids because we own the fiber optic.
To some degree, yes. Their services, the way it's worked is you really have control of who goes in the line and how much you charge them to go into your line. That's really the extent of your control.
Got it.
Outside of that, if they were charging your residents an unreal amount of money, there may be some legal retribution there, but that would be something totally.
Well, you said the magic number, control.
That seems to be it today.
And then the other side of things, and I know Mrs. Nelson brought this up earlier, is, I am a big proponent of underground utilities when it comes to communications, because I am not a big fan of broadcasting waves across our air. And right now, we're discharging an immense amount of internet across our airwaves, and everybody will rely on, it's a government approved device. We can discharge those frequencies, but I just don't believe in all of what they're saying. So if you can get it underground and hardwired to people's houses, they're getting better communication, faster internet, and it's probably best for our health in our community, I believe.
Any questions?
So if we put this conduit in, it's not gonna cost that much to put the conduit in, is it?
So right here, I've got basically on the mainline infrastructure, I have it listed at $30 a linear foot, and at the lateral infrastructure, I have it listed at 15. 2 years ago, it would have been 7.5 and 15. So you can see that I'm probably double what I used to be, but
It's not gonna go down.
yeah, but in total, most certainly, it's gonna range somewhere between 300 and 650,000, most certainly, to probably do all of the infrastructure. But again, that's 4 phases. That's a lot of linear footage. We're looking at over, just on this paper here, 16,000 linear feet of main line. 16,000 linear feet, that's quite a lot. So it's a big area. A lot of residents will be impacted by that decision.
So when actually does it look like we will need the money for phase one?
So I've been instructed right now from the Public Works Department that phase 1 will go out to bid the 1st of January.
Okay, so the question is whether we really have enough in our budget of when they start before July to handle phase one.
And I think that is what we probably should do is think about using it as an alternate, put it in as a bid alternate where we get a separate budget number from the bids on installing this conduit as opposed to our main bid. That way it doesn't affect the budget that we put aside just for the sewer and water that we're gonna do as the main infrastructure. And that should kind of protect us if we come into a budget issue.
And all these 4 phases, how many years is this for?
I think some of that's gonna be dictated by the ability of the contractor and how fast they can complete phase 1. The design itself will be completed by the end of this year for all 4 phases. And so technically, we could put them out to bid immediately, but to overwhelm and make the project unreal for our residents and turning everything upside down.
Yeah.
So we're thinking that it would be a 4 to 6 year total completion.
So our cost would be spread out over 4 to 6 years.
That's correct.
That's not that bad.
No.
Well, that's better than tearing the roads up twice.
Exactly right, yep.
That's where I'm thinking. I'm good with it.
And the fact that you can get a hold of the other utilities to be able to get that stuff cleared up as well, have that done at the same time.
Absolutely.
Well, we all agree it's a solid move. If we're going to do something, we should do it one time. So I think, and the budget is okay the way we're going out, and the rest we can budget for.
Yes.
So I think we're all okay with it?
So make a motion?
I'll make a motion that we approve the money for the conduit with the phase 1 project, phase 2 and 4, 2, 3, and 4, on the infrastructure upgrades as it relates to the communications.
Second.
I'll second the motion.
Oh, JR seconded it, you
Okay.
jumped right in. So Art made the motion, JR second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, very good, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
All right. For discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the amended resolution 2021-14, providing the transfer of Lander County's 2021 private activity bond volume cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority in the amount not to exceed $347,054.07.
And I'm sure, Commissioners, as you recall, we just had this on the past agenda. We did have to amend this because we had the wrong resolution number. Nothing in the verbiage has changed other than the resolution number, so I don't believe we have to reread that.
Thank you. I will go ahead and make a motion for the administerial correction to approve amended resolution number 2021-14. It's the resolution of the Board of Commissioners of Lander County, Nevada, providing for the transfer of the county's 2021 private activity bond volume cap to the Nevada Rural Housing Authority and other, period.
All right, Patsy made the motion, second.
I'll second it.
So Patsy made the motion, JR second, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Very good. Nice and easy. Okay, here we go. Update from Summit Engineering on the progress made on the current project pursuant to the agreement between Lander County and Summit Engineering with the effective date of April 14th, 2013, for discussion and possible action to approve, disapprove the continuation, the termination, and/or modification of the existing contract between Summit Engineering and Lander County on the Austin Town Boundary Realignment Project.
Alrighty, Commissioners, I believe that we have Larry Gruby on the line here, and in your guys' backup, this is attached with what we have as Exhibit A, and that kind of lines out the three phases of this project, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. So I guess the first question that I have is for Larry is exactly which phase we are on, and then we can go from there.
He needs to unmute himself.
Okay, this is a document I handed out to you guys, Exhibit A, and it basically, to broaden what Bertolo said, is it basically tells you that the first, on April 23rd, 2009, a contract was signed for Summit Engineering to do Task 1, compilation of the Donovan map. That was completed in 2010, and then in 2013, the county again contracted with Summit Engineering to accomplish Task 2. And Task 2, as Bert says, consists of 3 phases. Phase 1, feasibility. Phase 2, preliminary control surveying and mapping. And phase 3, final determination of rights of way, necessary for the orderly growth. That was 8 years ago. So Bert is correct in saying we'd like to know exactly where Summit Engineering, what they've done in the last 8 years.
They have to unmute themselves.
Okay, you have to unmute yourself. There we go. Oh. All right.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, for the most part, we can. Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. For the record, I'm Larry Gruby, Chief of Amateurs and Professional Land Surveyor for Summit Engineering, and with me is Nathan Costin, who's one of our engineering interns. So, anyway, what we're going to bring up on the screen is the diagram of all the subdivision maps that we submitted to the county.
They're trying to bring it up on here.
I need to share that.
Share screen.
You can give us a share screen.
They're trying to show math, is that your question?
Hey, Larry, without us getting that sent to us prior to the meeting, I don't know how we're gonna get it up on the screen for everybody else to see. This is just showing up on our computer sitting at our desk, but to actually put it up on the main on the main screen for everybody to see, we'd have to have a copy of it somehow.
And that wouldn't help Austin anyway.
So are you saying you have it up on the screen there?
What do you got in your packet?
1 second. Our contract.
That's it.
We don't have any way of broadcasting this, and Austin couldn't see it anyway, even if we did, is what we're saying.
Okay, well, essentially, what we've done is we've got subdivision maps A through K submitted with the exception of B. We ended up having issues because of the mineral surveys that were originally thought by the assessor's office to be owned by Lander County. They belong to the federal government.
Hey, Larry.
I
I don't mean to cut you off. I apologize, but would you mind just letting us know exactly where we are on what phase we're in, so kind of at that point the commission can keep up as per this contract and what phase and what step we're in.
Does he have that?
Okay, we've got about 60% of the town divided now based on the maps. We were told last fall that we were supposed to pretty much cease and desist in March. So what we've done is essentially we're just doing updates on the subdivision maps we have proposed so far, which is the ones A through K. We have another map L that we could do, but we need to know if we're supposed to proceed or not proceed.
So I guess so Larry. So phase 2 was preliminary controls, surveying, and mapping. Phase 3 was final determination of right-of-ways and necessary for the orderly growth. Are we to phase 3?
We're in phase 3, and as far as determining the remaining lines, we don't really have that much more work to do. We may need, maybe up to 5 days of surveys. Just there are where we have the buildings on Main Street, but a lot of those maps, some of the maps along Main Street are sent to the crewmate. Probably acceptable.
Well,
I mean, where do you even start? I mean, no, it's just where do you even start? It's 60% done 8 years into the project, and one of my questions is we've had this on the agenda a couple times. We've had some. Where's Thomas Gallagher in all of this? This is his company, isn't it? Correct? Huh? Why isn't he here? Why isn't anyone here to show us? And then, I'm sorry, all of this is extremely confusing of what phase, and because prior to me even coming on this board, coming in and listening, it has sounded like the same issues are still there that were there 5 years ago before I even, 2 years before I even came on this board. And so I just, my only issue is if it came to an agreement to no longer go with Summit, whatever engineering company that picks up, can they pick up from right where they left off, or what, are we starting all over again? And that's where I don't want to be. However, I also don't want to see, 5 years from now, you guys are still having this discussion. That's,
Could we ask our county engineer?
yeah, that's, can we ask?
The engineer of record for Lander County is Summit currently. There's many opinions out there. I don't know that, maybe, Tom, are you present?
He's not with us right at the moment.
What did he say? Okay.
I mean, one of the things is, in the beginning of the year, after all, we're going to pretty much be taken off in March. That's when the issue of incorrect ownership of the assessor database came up. Now, about 3 or 4 weeks ago, Commissioner Waits asked me, it's like, are you guys getting title reports? And the agreement was, on this, that the Lander County Assessor's Office would basically buy off on the chain of title. Their title reports on all these properties could have been $500,000 to $1 million worth of getting title reports. But there are a lot of errors in the database. Now, fortunately, we got tapped into the subcontract GIS person Lander County is using, Nancy Recruita, and she, not only is she very good at mapping, she understands mining claims very well in resolving a lot of that ownership for us.
Did you ask how long it will be to
Yeah,
complete this project?
How much longer do you need?
I would like Ryan Cook and I told the committee years ago this could take years. I would like to coming down to getting closer to the conclusion of the project, because I would honestly like to retire. But as long as Lander County wants me to continue on this project, I will continue. And I think I have the best background on it. The original surveyor did the survey. Mike Donovan, who passed away about a decade ago, was a very good friend of mine. And I was the person that taught him how to do basically high precision surveys. So we had a very good base for the record lines when we started, and we haven't had any conflict with those. Mike Donovan did a good job, but those were the record lines. Now we're trying to move the record lines to where the lines of occupation are per the decree map of the 80s.
Larry, excuse me for interrupting, but there's 2 questions we need. How long do you need? And we need a not to exceed amount. Just answer those 2 questions.
I have not, I would have to form, can I send a proposal then to the Lander County? But you have to understand, I can give you a proposal for doing just exactly what we originally do, but if we have to get to all the contact with landowners, that I've got Mary McLeod, for instance, she's Parsons, and about once every month or so, I try to get a hold of her, and she's not responding. So, I mean, I can tell you, I could probably come up with a proposal for how long it would take to establish where we believe all the rest of the line should be, and to set up the subdivision maps. But I can't tell you how long it's going to take chasing down property owners to get them recorded. At the commission meeting, I believe it was two or three ago, we ended up in a discussion over the estate of Bonnie Mastretti. 2 weeks ago, I talked to Craig, and he understands. He needs to get his mother's estate probate open, but it's not happening. I mean, he's right across, when he's down at the top, he's right across from the Austin courthouse. And anytime, whether it's for Austin or going out to another job, if I see his trucks there, I stop and I just say, Craig, are you getting your mom's potato?
Larry,
So-
I understand it's problematic. I understand there's problems. But you need to give the commissioners as certain answer as is possible to those two questions. If you need a few days to do it and supply the answer by paper, that's fine. You can also detail the potential problems, but we need to know an answer to those two questions, because otherwise it's going to be what, another 8 years? It's been 8 years into this project.
Yeah, and trust me, I don't want that.
I know you don't, Larry. I've talked to you a number of times, but can you try to come up with an answer to those two questions?
Yes, sir, I would like, if possible, I would like till Wednesday of next week to respond.
He wants till Wednesday to respond.
Okay, is that all right with you, Commissioner?
Wednesday to respond, yes.
Okay, put it on paper. That's fine, Larry.
Okay.
And can we get
One thing I would say as far as the deadline date.
Larry, wait a second. We need to not exceed amount in there too. There were two parts. How long and to not exceed amount, okay?
Okay, I don't have a problem with that, but I'm gonna have to condition it, that if we go beyond, if we have to, or ask, or it's necessary to do anything beyond the scope.
Then put it down on paper, Larry. I understand.
Yes, put it in writing, please.
And put the problems. Just put it down so we have something to look at and refer to.
Okay, Larry, we probably need Tom in on this, but what we're asking is if you're looking at this project right now, here you are looking at it, brand new, you see what's been done, now bid it. Now tell us, how much is it gonna cost us and how long before you can get it done, just like you were bidding a new project. Now, if you need Tom, and you probably do, that's fine. But we don't want to jump ship and lose everything we put into this. But we have got to have some answers.
I really don't want that either. One thing I do want to address about the time frame. The A through K maps most likely need to be recorded by the end of the tax year 2022. Because, in other words, we know in the fourth quarter everybody's supposed to have their taxes. Admittedly, taxes are not that much in Austin.
All right, so by next Wednesday, can we have that in writing, please?
Yes, ma'am.
So we're done with this item for now. All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Commissioners. Have a good rest of the week.
We need the info ASAP so we can get it on our agenda.
All right. Thanks. All right, so moving forward, so we're gonna go on for correspondence reports, future agenda items.
Okay, I've got a future agenda item. I'd like you to look into what it would cost to buy that lot across from the city.
Question from Austin.
Oh, we have a question coming in.
Yes, this is Charlie Vaughn from Austin. So what happens if you don't receive that Wednesday?
We don't,
There's nothing open right now. You're gonna have to open public comment to take Charlie's question.
okay, so under public comment, do you want me just to do under public comment then and just?
Well, this is a future agenda item.
Well, if he wants to, you're gonna have to reopen it then. I would just reopen.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and, for this question, reopen, number 11 for Summit Engineering. So go ahead and ask your question again, please, sir.
Yes, what happens if Summit doesn't provide this up by Wednesday?
We're gonna put it on the agenda, and the county commissioner's gonna make a decision, to terminate their, contract.
Well, I would like
Or
to
not.
have Tom Gallagher here so he can answer since he is our engineer of record.
Right, but that's not the question he asked.
I know, but I would like him here because he's the one that the question has to
Well,
be.
We all
asked.
want him here,
request it.
but I'm just saying that's not the question he asked.
Okay,
Well, the answer is we will agendize it
yes.
and ask for Tom's appearance.
Yes.
We're-
So, did you get that?
It will be on the agenda either way next time. Probably worded very similar to what it was this time, to either, adjust that contract or terminate the contract and move forward based on the information we get this coming Wednesday.
Alright. Thank you. So I can go ahead and close that. So we're gonna go on to, go ahead, Art, and finish your.
Future agenda. Could you look into that?
Yes, looking into buying the lot across from the Civic Center there.
Yeah, it would be the north side.
Is that the one Lyle owns?
Gas pump.
Lyle owns that one, yes. I will reach out. I know that, in the past we reached out, the county can't pay over assessed value, so it makes it very difficult. A lot of people don't wanna sell for that cheap.
Okay.
Okay, did you all read the letter on the crickets that we received? Because this is scary. Apparently, we were under some federal monies. The Department of Agriculture was taking care of some of the crickets, and we took care of some of them ourselves. And now they're saying, whoops, we don't have any more money agendized. And it's like, they're gonna ignore 3 states that have all of these crickets. So I do think we should put it on the agenda so we can discuss it, because we probably have to be contacting Congress and blah, blah, blah along with it. So, I think we need to take some action on the letter anyway.
Yes, and I passed that on, to some of the other boards in the county that are concerned with that as well. The Lander County has not received much funding from them or assistance in the past for our crickets.
No,
But I do know that money that you're speaking of that should have been trickling down is running out, and there's some concern with that, so definitely.
Somebody needs to come up with a use for them, like turn them into red dye or something. Cause it's red dye on 80.
So I have a couple of things. So, the library, if we are able to have some kind of information on the operating system, for the library, the cataloging, all of that, some information possible on that. And then maybe some, what can we do, Ted, as far as getting, moving forward as far as whatever policy we're gonna try to put in place in regards to the voting machines, so we can go ahead and get this done, instead of dragging it out, figuring out.
Yeah, we need to put that on the agenda to determine if we wanna go with a different manufacturer, say the same manufacturer, just dispense with voting machines. That would be the question that I envision. Is that what you're?
Well, no, the policy, on the policy.
Decide what type of voting methodology you're going to use.
But doesn't it have to go in front of the whole state for voting?
No.
I thought that had to be voted on.
You decide.
Okay.
So, before you establish a policy, you need to establish and adopt a,
Okay,
specific
okay,
voting method. You wanna stay with the same one?
okay,
You wanna go to another
okay,
manufacturer?
I see what you mean.
You wanna put paper ballots?
I see what you mean. I had something else, but I can't remember
Then,
what it is.
then it can, and then we can say, and to adopt a policy.
Okay. You have anything?
I have crickets, library, summit, voting machines. I would also like to put my evaluation on the agenda. If,
Oh, yeah, let's have some fun.
we are due for that. We're a little bit past due. I think, Ms. Waits had brought it to Ted's attention the other day. I need properly noticed. So I need a kind of a request from this board on that if we
Yes.
can, so.
Can we do that?
Please,
Okay.
Yeah.
So you need a
Yes.
written notice?
yes, please.
Thank you.
Send Bert a notice that he's gonna be evaluated, Counselor.
We also had asked for quarterly reports or semi-annual reports from our, public defender. Are they sending it in to you?
I think they turn it into the court. Do you get them? We get them with our
because that needs, and we don't have to put it on the agenda if you just want to send the information out to us, but I.
It's in your package.
From the public defender?
It's in with their quarterly bill, right?
No, so we get them together, but Shannon takes the bill and the correspondence, Caitlin, is the quarterly report.
You know, I'm sorry, I can barely hear you, but I don't ever remember seeing it.
The quarterly report's supposed to be in your correspondence every quarter in your packet.
I have the general information, but I hadn't received one from the public defender.
We'll reach out to them and see if, because I think you guys did request them to
Because
show
I
up in
read the
person.
court one comes in from both justice courts. Yeah, but not,
We have it, we just.
okay. Good, just send our backup, you don't have agendized, that's okay.
And I can't remember what else I had, so do I have a, public comment?
Well, no, just to be,
I
hold
have
on.
a couple public
Okay,
comments.
all right.
Hold on, just to be clear, I wanna, do we want them to show up and give a report, or are you good with it being in just a backup? Just, okay, okay.
Okay. All right, so do we have some public comment?
I do. This is Sadie Sullivan.
Okay.
I just wanted to state on behalf of staff and several election board workers that have contacted me since the item, they would like to state that the election items that have been brought forward, that it's extremely hard. Do not take it personal. They are all sworn in under oath, and they do their jobs for the election. I have election workers that go back to when Lottie Burris and Judy Negro were the Lander County clerks, and that goes back from about 1990 to 2010. They would like to see that the state federal laws followed by people that are involved moving forward, and this is why the oath is taken to office and that it's taken very seriously. They state that their integrity for the last has been there in the past and will be there for all elections in the future. Thank you.
Okay, Sadie, some of the stuff that you were saying was breaking up, so I think we got the gist of it, but we didn't get it all, so I want, just to make sure that you know that, okay?
Okay, and I can submit it in.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Is Jenny on there? Okay, so. All right, that's all you
I
had?
make a motion to adjourn.
Oh. I have to, any other public comment? All right, just making sure, because I'm always missing it. So Art made the motion, second. All right, Jared, excuse me, all in favor, aye.
This conference is no longer being recorded.